is doing. Last week they had Brady. This week they got Brady.
We're literally doing it differently from everybody else.
As a matter of fact, moving forward from this point on, I will not make reference to PFF.
Ready to get into it?
Yeah.
All right. We're going team by team.
I would be very careful about slinging stones.
Am I going to get sued?
We got legal on this?
I like football season, and all the things that go with it.
Welcome into the PFF NFL podcast. Steve Palazzolo, Sam Monson. We're live here on a Monday morning. Time to review all the Week 6 NFL action. How you doing today, Sam?
Couldn't be much worse, Steve. You?
Better than that.
Yeah.
Better than that. Mm-hmm. All right. We talked about it on Thursday, I think, at some point.
Probably.
The rugby did not go well.
Didn't go well. And
you have 30 seconds if you want to get anything off your chest.
I'm a broken shell of a human being.
You have
broken
tape.
man.
Why do you have tape?
With the tape because we're in mourning. And I think it's only right and proper.
You're really going to strap up
with the black armband on to mourn the World Cup that was.
It's for the World Cup.
Yeah.
For Ireland's chances.
Lost the quarterfinal to New Zealand. Razor close game.
Quarterfinal. It's not even the finals.
No, it's the game that we never get past.
Yeah.
No matter how good we are, which at the moment is arguably as good as anybody, but not as good as New Zealand apparently in this one game that we can never get past.
Since it's never happened, maybe you shouldn't have gotten your hopes up.
I wouldn't have had we not had a run of whatever it was, 65 weeks as the best team in the world.
We know this is serious when I was getting multiple tweets yesterday like, hey, take it easy on Sam, check in on Sam, make sure he's okay.
And the thing is, people are like joking, like it's happy fun time. And like, no. This is the Mount Rushmore of like punches to the gut. Everyone's had them, the game that like ended you. This is up there. The 2002 World Cup against Spain, penalty shootout, it's right up there with that. Ironically, it replaces Leinster-La Rochelle from a few months ago.
Ironically.
But, like, not ready to joke about it. Not for, a couple of years.
Well, I have to wonder, were you okay yesterday?
No.
With all sorts of NFL action going on. I didn't get any. There's usually a little text chain between you and I. Hey, I saw this thing. Hey, what about this? Here's a comment on the game. I got nothing. Nothing from you.
We're almost 2 days later, and I'm still nowhere near.
Well, we got to grind it out. And get through the games. Everybody's here to listen about NFL Week 6. Are you ready to go?
No.
Ish?
But
all
yeah.
Right. I'll drag you through. Through to the end. You dragged me through a couple weeks ago when I couldn't speak.
That's true.
But I'll help you out here. Baltimore Ravens 24, Tennessee Titans 16. Tottenham. It's over down there. Down over in Tottenham.
Yeah. Ben and Gordon were there.
Ben and Gordon were at the game.
Uh-huh.
That's great. Were they live grading? Ben was definitely just like, he's got it in his brain, live grading. He's over there watching the O-line. He's like, there's a 0.5, there's a -1.
I didn't know we let him away from his office on a Sunday.
I know, that's true. I guess for an island game, it's doable. Hopefully he got back in time for the actual games. Well, it's good to know that they got out and had some fun. Ravens 24, Titans 16. Titans still 0-3 at home here. Ravens 4-2. Titans fall to 10-4. Sorry, it was the first home loss. For the
the other way.
Officially. That's what I meant to say.
But it doesn't count.
But 4 losses all the way from Nashville here. Ryan Tannehill gets hurt during the game. Weird game, 900 field goals for the Ravens. Malik Willis has to come in late and get sacked on 4 out of 9 dropbacks.
Pretty standard fare from Malik Willis.
Before we get into it, it looks like a high ankle sprain for Ryan Tannehill. As we know, that's when the ankle turns in instead of out. And
have you confirmed that on the Boo Boo breakdown?
I think so. You know how I watch the old Jags games.
Oh yeah.
And when Mark Brunell had this ankle injury in 1998, they cut to Leslie Visser when he was coming back from it, and it was Leslie who taught this to teenage me that the high ankle is the turn in instead of the turn out. So it's on her.
Okay.
I saw this recently when I was rewatching like a 1998 game or whatever. Anyway, let's get into how the Ravens won 24-16.
Yeah, I mean, they were the better team for the entire game, and then for a brief period of time, it felt a little bit like the Steelers game a week ago, where it's like, it's somehow going to unravel again.
Yeah,
and
keep it a minute.
Right, just because they keep taking a field goal at the end of all these, they're not actually getting away. and, eventually the Titans are actually going to somehow pull this out. Didn't end up happening, but it got close. We got more punter talk. One of the best plays by a punter all season. Ryan Stonehouse, Tennessee Titans punter.
Yeah, go
Good
on.
punt. It felt like a good punt. I haven't checked the hang time on it, but the direction, the distance was great. Pins Devin Duvernay deep into his own territory. Great return by Duvernay. Takes it right up the middle. Good job by the corners, the vices on the coverage team as well. And he scored. Only he didn't because Ryan Stonehouse ran him down. You get run down by a punter.
Look at you, giving love to the punters. You're listening to the people in the Discord.
Good work by Ryan Stone.
Or at least the one guy. Ravens offense looked pretty sharp early on, but they just could not put the ball in the end zone, right? It did. You said it felt like the Steelers game where the Ravens are moving the ball up and down the field. Lamar Jackson really sharp, especially in the first half, and just couldn't put it in. Zay Flowers with his first NFL touchdown, and on a little scramble drill there. But there were a couple big plays. Nelson Aguilar, Odell Beckham Jr., Mark Andrews, a few big plays in there.
Poor Harold Landry on that play, by the way, the touchdown. Like, Harold Landry has somehow found himself matched up one-on-one with Zay Jones, just sprinting for his life to keep pace.
Flowers.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Flowers, yeah. Keeping pace with a wide receiver who then, just 180 degrees because it's a scramble drill, turns and, runs into space, and Landry's just no shot. None.
Yeah, not much you could do there. I mean, that's what it felt like in the first half, right? The Ravens offense moving the ball. Lamar was hit his first 7, 8, 9 passes, whatever that was. The Ravens offense to me does feel very I don't want to say horizontal, but you do have to cover the entire field, I think, with this Ravens offense versus previous years. They have the same element of downhill running, power, counter, where the offensive line's getting downhill, you're getting guys into space, but there's also a much bigger horizontal element with more jet sweep type action, screen game and everything. They just have to figure it out in the red zone and finish a little bit. As you said, this is kind of like what kept Tennessee in this game. And for the Titans, it was just a couple. They were very inconsistent on offense. It was the complete opposite. They were not getting anything going. And then you've got a 63-yarder from Derrick Henry, 48-yard pass by Malik Willis to Tyjae Spears. It was just a couple big plays for the Titans, but just not enough.
And big penalties. That kept Tennessee in it for a while. Like a couple of big high leverage penalties, a really weak looking pass interference call early in the game on a pass. Was that to Nuke? Where so the defender is entitled to go for the ball, right? And he goes for the ball.
That was a bad one. That was a really bad one.
Yeah. And because of that, Hopkins, right, runs into him, right?
Yeah.
So, he's entitled to be there if he's going for the ball. You can't just say, because there's contact of any description on the receiver, it's pass interference. So that extended a drive, gave them a shot. And they had another penalty with the Kyle Hamilton thing, right? Which that was a weird sort of 3-play sequence that really propelled them back into the game. They got the interception off Lamar Jackson. They then get the Kyle Hamilton ejection penalty, and then Derrick Henry goes in for a touchdown, and that propelled Tennessee right back into the game from a position where, because Baltimore keeps only taking field goals, they're only a touchdown back.
So the two guys going for the ball thing, I don't love. I guess we'll talk about the refs later in this game in the show here, a couple hours from now, when we get to Sunday Night Football. So the Ravens move to 4-2, first place in the AFC North. They've got the Lions next week in a really fun matchup. Remember, when teams used to travel to London, it was an automatic bye the next week. We're no longer in that world. So the Ravens have to come back and face Super Bowl contender Detroit Lions next week. The Titans will go onto their bye, and we'll see what happens with Tannehill. And again, Malik Willis gets sacked 4 times in 9 dropbacks. The Ravens were kind of winning up front and collapsing the pocket and everything, but this is, as you said, kind of standard fare for Malik Willis. Will Levis still exists over there, so we'll see
theoretically
what's happening in Tennessee coming out of the bye. But the season's not looking great so far. 2-4, and Ryan Tannehill hurt.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen very little in his entire NFL career to suggest that Malik Willis can operate an offense in the NFL. Like, the Titans took one look at it last year and were like, nope. And then in, training camp and preseason this year, it's like it still doesn't really function. Like, this thing only works when Ryan Tannehill is the quarterback. And then as soon as Malik Willis comes in, nothing is functioning. Like, he can throw, and when he has, it's like when he drops back, targets number one, just fires the ball. That works. But when he has to actually work the offense, not a chance. So if Will Levis can't get ahead of that guy on the depth chart, that's a really bad sign for Will Levis's NFL career.
All right, one of those guys has to learn some kind of new skills here, just as you have. As a parent, you've had to learn so many new skills to provide for your family, how to do copious amounts of laundry, meal plan for even the pickiest eater, and now how to protect your family's financial future. Fabric by Gerber Life provides an easy one-stop shop for your family's financial needs. Fall's all about back to school, back to routine checklist. It's time to get in on Fabric. It was designed by parents for parents to help you get high-quality, surprisingly affordable term life insurance policy in less than 10 minutes. Fabric has flexible policies that fit your family and your budget, like $1 million in coverage for less than $1 a day. Get your personalized quote in just minutes and then apply when it's convenient for you. It's all online and on your schedule. You can go from start to covered in less than 10 minutes with no health exam required. So join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to protect their family. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/PFFNFL. That's meetfabric.com/PFFNFL. meetfabric.com/PFFNFL. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Insurance Company, not available in certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health questions. It is PFFNFL, right?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure. I was actually on the fantasy tab as I was reading it, and I had to ad-lib and make sure that I remembered our promo code and didn't use theirs.
It's amazing.
Very professional here. Most people would just sweep that under the rug and move on and not tell everybody about it. But no, radical candor here. All right, where do we go? So I try to get the first games with two teams in an Eastern time zone, for the people that are up earlier here on YouTube. And there was a lot of West Coast travel. There was a lot of stuff to find those games. So let's go to Jacksonville. Jaguars 37, Colts 20. Jags moved to 4-2. Colts fall to 3-3 here. Colts still haven't beaten the Jags in Jacksonville in quite a while. Gardner Minshew, of course, got the start for Anthony Richardson. There was a report before the game started that Anthony Richardson, not only, we were talking, is it 4 to 6 weeks for the AC joint injury? There's a talk that he might have season-ending injury or surgery. So, yeah, not great news for the Colts. I mean, not great news for just NFL fans if you want to watch Anthony Richardson. Gardner Minshew, who I was complimenting for his work in games where Richardson got hurt, has now had 2 rough games in his actual starts. He kept throwing the ball to the defense. Did you just see? So the look on Sam's face is he just got to the column that says turnover-worthy plays for Gardner Minshew. That's exactly what it was. And if you want to tell the people what number they might see once the premium stats go live later today.
As of right now, he has 7 turnover-worthy plays. Is that a record?
No, it's not a record. John Skelton exists.
Is 10 in a game combined a record?
I think Josh Freeman, when he was off the street, start on Monday Night Football, was in the 7 to 10 range.
7 to 10 range
on like 25 dropbacks.
Yeah.
No, there's definitely been games that were close 8, 9, or 10. I think
7 is.
I think
wild.
I mean, I felt it. I felt it watching it. I really felt like, I got the 7 boxes going. I'm watching all the games. I look up, and Gardner Minshew's hitting safeties in stride.
Yeah. And
it was not good. It was bad. It was a bad game.
Somehow, he almost, there was a brief moment where there was a comeback being threatened. It's like, despite everything, we're somehow not out of this and working our way down the field. And then Minshew has probably the worst of all of the turnover-worthy plays. Just, lofts the ball straight to a safety in the end zone. And you're like, what are you doing, Gardner? Was this what we hadn't really thought of was the pressure of Gardner Minshew returning to Jacksonville, the team that
had not thought of
Minshew mania. And then it just completely fell apart.
I know you've done a little bit of research on starts for rookies, right? Starts to their career, 5 weeks in, 6 weeks in, or whatever. And you sent me some numbers the other day to remind me. Gardner Minshew had a passer rating of about 105 and was off to an outstanding start as a rookie when he had to fill in.
Yeah, through 5 weeks, which was, up until yesterday, the numbers for Gardner Minshew's rookie season were insane. It was like, I'm trying to find the tweet. I tweeted him out. They were like 9 touch. Here we go. Completing 67% of his passes for 7.8 yards per attempt. That's a pretty good number. 9 touchdowns, 1 interception, and a passer rating of 105.6, and a really healthy PFF grade as well. Like, through 5 weeks, you would have been reasonably well convinced that Gardner Minshew was actually an amazing find, like a steal. We've discovered a quarterback.
Purdy-like even.
Right, buried in the draft that nobody saw coming. This guy's amazing. In addition to, having the crazy swag and the aviators and the jorts and all this thing. You're like, we found the guy. And then, Gardner Minshew does things like this. And you're like, okay, no, not so much.
That was, this is Gardner Minshew's maybe closing in on. Look, I felt way more confident in Minshew just before this game, right? I mean, because not to throw him away after one game, but there's a lot of parts of his career that don't make sense because of that incredible start on a Jacksonville team that had bad weapons, right? Yeah. Like they had bottom 5 pass catchers and offensive line that particular year. So in this world where we're always trying to separate the quarterback from his supporting cast, that was almost even more impressive for Minshew. Clearly, he hasn't kept it going. And like I said, when he came in for Anthony Richardson back week 1 and then in week 5 last week, looked really good. Completing about 80% of his passes and moving the ball. This game, though, there was just too many throws into coverage. There was a strip sack in there and had a couple dropped interceptions, 3 actual interceptions, and they weren't bad luck. I mean, they were just sailing. He was just sailing passes over the middle of the field, misreading linebackers, as you mentioned, in the end zone on one. I mean, it was all pretty bad.
Yeah, just a bizarre game. I mean,
the one in the end zone's 4th and 5. He's just kind of chucking it up, but
it was still like
it was just short. It was just
by a
incredibly
mile.
short. And again, this was the game where you just kind of saw like arm limitations in there too. Passes short, overthrowing over the middle, the whole thing.
Yeah, but just horrendous game by Minshew. And as I said, despite all that, there were brief periods where it looked like they weren't completely out of it, and then Minshew just took it back under control and threw the ball away again.
On the other hand, we've talked up Jacksonville's defense a little bit, what they did against the Chiefs, what they've done against the Bills. A lot of guys played pretty well here. Devin Lloyd made his return at linebacker. He had one of his best games of his career, the second-year linebacker. Foye Oluokun had a huge game for the Jags. He'll grade extremely well, especially in coverage. And I had predicted maybe a Trayvon Walker breakout game. And, it wasn't this 3-sack gem or anything like that, but as expected, got a little bit more pressure. One of his best pass rush win rates of his 1+ year career, Trayvon Walker. And a lot of it was against Blake Freeland, who did have to start this time at right tackle for Braden Smith. Freeland wasn't as bad as he was in previous weeks, but, there's just times where he's big, long, and skinny and just gets bullied a little bit. So Trayvon Walker, Josh Allen, couple good games as pass rushers for the Jags.
Yeah, it's not only is he generally overmatched at this point in his NFL career, but it's also a pretty bad matchup going up against, literally the most athletic edge rusher to ever enter the NFL, who's carrying some significant weight with him. If he decides he wants to bull rush you've got some problems.
Yeah, that's it. This was an interesting one where I don't think Trevor Lawrence was particularly sharp. He also gets hurt on his last snap. They're trying to run a little bootleg. He tries to kind of stumbles coming out of the boot, gets sacked, gets twisted around. I don't know how many Twitter doctors you may have looked at. I saw Dr. Chow's quick analysis. He thinks he'll be back even on a Thursday night game against the Saints, but it's just something to keep an eye on.
Mm-hmm.
Trevor wasn't the most sharp. I thought a couple.
No, it's not a good game by him.
Not a great game for him. There was a late interception. There was another one that could have been weird, almost intentional. I mean, some weird decisions in there, I thought, by Lawrence. And both touchdowns were really well schemed up. A little flatten up on one. We had, Christian Kirk up the sideline, really well schemed on a little slot fade type of play where busted coverage by Indianapolis, and the Jags took advantage. Travis Etienne also ran the ball well, a couple of those explosive plays that he's showed these last couple of weeks. Jags, it was a good all-around team win for them. I thought defense played great and got some help for Trevor Lawrence when he wasn't his sharpest.
Yep. Zach Moss still out-snapping Jonathan Taylor, albeit it's close, and Taylor had the big play in this game, like the only big play from either one of them, so maybe that starts to swing back towards Jonathan Taylor going forward.
So Jags moved to 4-2, Colts 3-3. This was for first place in the AFC South. Jags starting to maybe round into form here in what people expected in the preseason. All right, Miami Dolphins 42, Carolina Panthers 21. Dolphins move to 5-1. Panthers fall to 0-6. This one did not start as expected. Dolphins were about 2 touchdown favorites, which didn't seem crazy, but the Panthers get up 14-0 pretty quickly. And this was coming off a week where we hear the players speak all the time. Players we're gonna play to my strengths. We're gonna play faster. And those were the words coming out of Carolina this week for Bryce Young. Going to play to his strengths. And early on, it was the best he'd looked. Looked sharp, crisp. Ball was coming out quicker, a little more zip. It looked more confident. I don't want to throw away the entire game because it wasn't just early. I thought overall it was another small step in the right direction for Bryce Young, despite the 3-touchdown loss for the Panthers.
Small step, huh?
Yeah. I've said baby steps for Bryce Young about 5 straight shows, so I tried to mix it up. Small steps.
Yeah, I mean, any of them appear to be puntastic.
There was also, because you just get enamored by either super large people or really small people, right? It's a thing. That and billionaires. Imagine like an oversized billionaire or an undersized billionaire. I mean, you're going to write a book about that guy. It did look like the Bryce Young being small, like the times that he got hit, he was getting crushed.
It's terrifying.
Engulfed. It felt like every time I look up, he's getting engulfed. But he hung in there, and I thought he played a solid game.
Every time he gets hit, it's like that Alex Smith, Aaron Donald play where you just like, don't hurt him. Leave him alone. Stop bullying the poor guy. It's amazing. Like it's amazing he gets out of those plays. He gets up again, goes walking back to the huddle. No, this was the best game I think he's played. Now, that should sort of show you where they've been, that the best game he's played, I think, by a distance, ended up in 217 passing yards, 1 touchdown at an average at 5.7 yards per attempt. Like, those aren't good numbers. And yet, that is the best he's looked, I think, in the NFL. So, we've got a way to go before the Bryce Young thing is working. But I think we've sort of known for a while, because of this Carolina team, you're not going to get a fair evaluation on Bryce Young given what's around him. Now, that doesn't mean it can't function with any quarterback. We saw Andy Dalton comes in and shows, look, a guy that's been in the league for 15 years can make this work and at least look okay, but it's not good enough that a young quarterback that is stepping into the league for the first time can make it work right out of the gate. It's going to take some time. But like I did this, I was just curious, how many times since PFF has been doing this, through 5 weeks, has the best quarterback from a draft class look like the best quarterback from the draft class, right? And how many times has it been somebody else? And, were you taking your information from those first 5 weeks? How badly would you have been led astray? By my count, 13 times it's been a different quarterback that's looked like the best guy through the first 5 weeks, right?
Out of about how many?
Since 2006. So what's that, 18?
Wow.
Now,
so you're saying the initial impressions, of which we always tend to react.
Yes.
Right? Oh, I missed this, or I was right about this, or I was wrong about that. You're saying 13 out of about, 18 times?
Yeah. Now, there's also like how many of those? 17 times. I'm not counting this year yet.
Oh, yeah, 17. Yeah.
So then there's also like how many of those were clear? Sometimes this guy was the best, but it was close. Nobody was really standing out. Like, well, then it's like how obvious was it that one guy was better than the other guy? And that that takes a few of them out there as well. But there's quite a lot where it was pretty freaking obvious. Like through 5 weeks, nobody was playing well, but Matthew Stafford was the worst quarterback from his draft class. Remember, his rookie season was atrocious.
Yeah.
And then like now, the idea of who was better, Mark Sanchez or Matthew Stafford, it's a joke. So anyway, the Bryce Young right now looks like the worst of the rookie quarterbacks from his class. Like, he was worse than Richardson, way worse than Stroud. I'm just saying we don't know that yet.
Yeah.
Bryce Young's in a rough situation, has been playing badly. It's not working, but we've seen way too many quarterbacks to be like, there's no way Bryce Young's going to come good.
That's what we do here on the PFF NFL podcast. 6 weeks in, we pump the brakes on overanalyzing this stuff. And I'm just telling you, we're seeing, some improvement, at least some improvement there from Bryce Young. It's another game where there'll be a not-so-great pass-blocking grade for Carolina. Credit the Dolphins, though, man. They withstood the early onslaught and then, onslaught of their own.
Well, they got nothing going for a while, and then the offense, caught fire. And once it catches fire, there's not a whole lot you can do about it.
Yeah, I mean, Tyreek Hill, another, getting behind the defense for a long touchdown. Tua, a few big-time throws in there, did a really nice job getting the ball down the field. Remember last week, again, this is moves week to week. Tua had a really good statistical game last week, but he kept throwing the ball to the defense, including a pick six that kept the Giants into it. He played a much cleaner game this week. Got the ball to Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill over 150 yards in 4 out of 6 games.
Good.
This year.
So, a lot of people talk about Tyreek Hill being clearly the fastest player in the NFL. And you're like, is he even faster than, these other guys on the Dolphins that run 4.3? Dante Jackson, I think it was for his touchdown, right, where he did the backflip with the phone and, was going to get fined for that. He smoked Dante Jackson on just like a straight, I'm going to run past you thing. Dante Jackson runs a 4.32. Like, he absolutely dusted a dude that runs 4.32. It's like, that's not, if you run a 4.3 flat, you're not in that Tyreek Hill's league. We're talking a different level of speed. I don't care what his measured 40 is. This guy can absolutely smoke people that run 4.3 flat.
It's because he has speed. It doesn't matter what, the 40 is. I think it's Tyreek Hill's speed is elite at every stage.
Yes.
Right? Some guys are good accelerators. Some guys have a good second gear, third gear. He's good at all the gears. Mm-hmm. So when he accelerates, you know this, though. I mean, it's not as simple as saying, well, he ran by the 4.3 guy. Because if he wins, he wins off the line of scrimmage. If he wins early, the other guys, more flat-footed, it's not an even race, so to speak. It's the Tyreek Hill's sudden, dynamic, and there have been other 4.3, 4.2 type of receivers, but he's also quick, right? You usually don't have the deceleration ability. He has the deceleration ability. And look, Tyreek Hill just looks like he's playing a different game sometimes. With the way he plays. Even just like catching a dig route, and he's just like, I'm just going to lose ground to gain ground. Right. When he pulled up with the cramping issue. I'm just going to lose ground to gain ground. Like every other receiver, when they run backwards, you're like, oh no, watch out, here comes the defense rallying to the ball, and Tyreek Hill's just getting an angle to pick up more yak.
That looked like he had done a hamstring. Like that looked bad. It looked like he was done. And then it's like, it's just cramping.
Tyreek Hill has this Mike Evans type of thing to him. Like Mike Evans comes up injured a lot in things that seem to look bad, and then comes back in and is generally okay. Like they battle through some little things that it's like, oh no, is this it? And Tyreek Hill's done that for years. Like I've got a little ankle here, we got a hamstring there, and it's like, uh-oh, if this guy blows a tire, this is trouble for the team.
It feels like if you have a guy who we're talking about as like one of the most special athletes of all time, let alone in the NFL right now, it feels like, if you have a ridiculous high-end supercar Ferrari, like the thing needs to be constantly in maintenance because one slight thing off here or there and nothing works. And it doesn't, it's not going to start, let alone bomb 200 miles an hour down the racetrack. Like it feels like Tyreek Hill must be constantly in this state of, let's just make sure, keep everything working. Apparently we've got to have an IV today because the hamstring's saying no right now.
That's all it was cramping. It did look like, all right, what's this? They've got this looming matchup with the Kansas City Chiefs in a few weeks in Germany. It's Tyreek Hill against the Chiefs. It's going to be number 1 seed type of implications, supremacy in the AFC, all that stuff on the line. And he doesn't. If you're a Dolphins fan, you're like, all right.
That's also, I think,
don't get hurt.
Multiple weeks in a row where he's needed IVs for maybe I don't know what he's doing, but maybe the man needs to work on his hydration a little bit because I don't think even a guy like Tyreek Hill should be requiring IVs on a regular weekly basis.
Tua had a beautiful scramble drill touchdown to Jalen Waddle in there as well. And once again, the Dolphins rushing attack. Raheem Mostert going 17 carries for 115 yards. Imagine if Achane was in there, adding another $150 on 8 carries. Like, he would if he wasn't injured. I saw a stat today. The Dolphins are averaging 100 yards more than the number 2 team in the NFL, which is clearly a record for the biggest differential in yardage. And Dolphins just looking dominant, and both sides of the ball, really, as we've been talking up Bryce Young because expectations have lowered and we saw some improvement from there, but the Dolphins put a lot of pressure on him and, crack down on that Panthers offense after a slow start.
It is crazy. I mean, the Dolphins offense basically didn't do anything for, a quarter. And then they still put up 400 plus yards. Like, they spotted you a quarter of the game and still put up the kind of numbers that look like, a dominant outing by any other offense.
Yeah, it's really impressive. So, big win for the Dolphins. Impressive win, 42-21. The NFL season's going strong, and DraftKings Sportsbook is hooking up new customers with an offer that's even stronger. Bet $5 on any game this week to score $200 instantly in bonus bets. And DraftKings isn't stopping there. All customers can take advantage of a sweetener offer every single game day this October. We got Monday Night Football just here tonight, Cowboys and Chargers. Thursday Night Football, Saints, Jags. Go get in on the action and get in on that game day greatness. You just download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use code PFF. New customers can score $200 instantly in bonus bets when you bet $5 on the NFL. That's code PFF only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/football. Terms for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. All right, what's the next game we're going to go to here? Let's go to Cleveland. Cleveland Browns, 19. San Francisco 49ers, 17. I'm not waiting for the 49ers fans to wake up.
No.
We're getting right into it.
Not that kind of time.
So 19-17. Rookie kicker Jake Moody misses a game-winning field goal for the Niners. Niners fall to 5-1. Browns move to 3-2. P.J. Walker now 1-0 as a Cleveland Browns quarterback.
Just P.J. knocking off the best team in the NFL.
Of course, the story here off of Brock Purdy dominating on Sunday Night Football against the Dallas Cowboys. Purdy finishes 12 of 27 for $125. That's just 4.6 yards per attempt, touchdown and a pick in there. Gets sacked 3 times. It was a really fun game. There was also, we talked about the Herculean matchup between Myles Garrett and Trent Williams, and that was as advertised. Myles Garrett put on a show down the stretch. Now, it was on the Niners' potential game-winning drive, but Myles Garrett in the one-on-one matchup for Trent Williams puts on an absolute show. A lot of fun in this game.
Yeah, and, the other element of that was, were they going to keep him on that side, or were they actually going to move him to the other side and try and get him, more reps? And they did, largely speaking, leave him over Trent Williams. Played almost all of the snaps on the right side of the line where he normally lines up. Had 6 rushes from the other side. And at least one of them, I saw him dusting Colton McKivitz just straight around the outside of them. It's like, okay, I just don't understand why teams do that. Move him. Now, You're
oversimplifying things here, Sam.
I'm not. It's really not that difficult. You have the best pass rusher in the NFL. Move him to the side against the chump. It's that simple. It really is. You don't want him rushing against the best pass blocker in the NFL one-on-one when you can simply move him to the other side of the line and free him up against a worse player.
There's other elements at play.
There really aren't that many elements. Like, these guys have the ability to do that.
The whole defensive front. You have other players that have to flip sides.
There's absolutely no reason you can't do that and be better. It's a net win if you move him to the worst player on the other side of the line. And look, Myles Garrett played well, had a couple of big plays on here. On the other hand, he's going to come out of this game with a middling grade and a middling pass rushing performance because he went up against the best tackle in the NFL, which is just a loss for the Browns.
Yeah, but okay, don't take away from the fact that we got to see some awesome matchups and Garrett won a bunch on the final drive, but it doesn't really matter because Niners did get into position for the game-winning field goal. So this was one of those games where I always talk about the underdog is hanging in, and of course, Captain Obvious here, it goes one of 2 ways. either the heavy favorite, the 49ers, it's just the longer the game goes, they pull away. They're a better team. Of course they're going to pull away. Or the underdog continues to hang in, and in this case, they end up pulling the upset. So it's 10-10, into the third quarter. Cleveland gets up 13-10, and look, PJ Walker didn't play great at all. Throws an interception and puts the Niners right at the 8-yard line early in the fourth quarter. And it looks like Brock Purdy has led a fourth quarter comeback off of a one-play 8-yard touchdown rush from Jordan Mason, which is so it puts the Niners up 17-13, and you're like, all right, it's over for PJ in the Browns. But it wasn't. They were down 17-13. They drive back, get a 50-yard field goal from Dustin Hopkins, get another field goal late to go up 19-17. Purdy has a chance to lead the fourth quarter comeback. Christian McCaffrey was injured off the field, tried to come back, ends up leaving again. He's injured. Deebo Samuel's injured. So Purdy has a chance to lead the comeback. The Niners do get into field goal position, as I mentioned. Jake Moody misses the game winner.
Yeah, it's an interesting game because this, I think, was probably the worst game of Brock Purdy's career. He was bad in this game. Now, it was also rainy. So we may have found Brock Purdy's kryptonite, which is simple moisture. 9.25-inch hands, It's tricky to grip that ball.
He's above the line, though.
Only just, though, And when that thing's slippy, you need those big hands.
I think we're forgetting just how good the Browns defense
is amazing.
Their statistical output for the Browns is really outstanding.
Their defense is amazing, but I don't think this game was – I think this game was half a product of that amazing defense and half a product of the rain and Brock Purdy playing badly in the rain. There's a ball where it's just straight out of his hand. That's not the defense. That's Brock Purdy not being able to grip a football. He also just missed a bunch of passes in this game that were there, that were open. There was it was a really funny piece of play-by-play commentary in this game that sums up that 49ers offense. I actually wrote it down because it made me laugh. Purdy, play action. He's got Kittle wide open. Goes the other way. Ayuk's wide open too. It's just everybody's open.
Oh, that's funny.
And it's that kind of is this offense. But, Purdy had one absolute dime deep down the field. I think Ayuk dropped it, or maybe it was a pass breakup as well. But that was a big play left on the table. He had the drop thing there on his game-winning drive. He opened that with what could have maybe, I don't know if it's down as a turnover-worthy play, but badly behind the receiver, could have been picked off. The next one misses Ayuk down the sideline on a one-on-one play, just missed the field with it. The game-winning drive, or what could have been the game-winning drive, couldn't have started worse from a Brock Purdy point of view. And, that Browns defense is legit and did a better job against this offense than pretty much anybody out there. Also, by the way, I think there's a fair case that not having Christian McCaffrey in that lineup changes the offense. I mean, he was still cooking early. They had those trick plays to him, and then he's not there. And it's all right, that doesn't work the same. So I think this game was a collection of all those things. Really good defense by the Browns. We knew that already. The worst game of Brock Purdy's career. Conditions that probably fed into that, and some general mistakes by the 49ers offense in addition to not having Christian McCaffrey out there, and they still needed a kicker not hitting the field goal to lose the game.
We do live in a very oversimplified black and white world sometimes, so there are definitely some people that will say that, Brock Purdy did his job, got them in position for the game ender. I mean, honestly, it was really a little 6 or 7 yard pass to Brandon Ayuk where he weaves through the defense for 33 yards. That was the game. That was the game-winning drive. It was really Ayuk and his yak, as you mentioned. Purdy missed a ton of throws, but I also, as I was tweeting through yesterday, you know me. I'm a dome guy. I'm a weather guy. That stuff matters. I think we need to consider it more, both for favorable and unfavorable conditions when we do football analysis. We're sitting here in week 6, we watch the game, we know that it was a factor. We know that the Browns play in way more of these games than the 49ers. But at the end of the year, we're going to look at a player and just say, here are his stats. Let's vote for MVP. Here are his stats. Let's say who was the best. Here are his stats. And people don't remember the context whatsoever. other sports, baseball in particular, do a really good job of accounting for ballpark factors. Ballpark factors is what I would say years ago. But they do it because it's different in baseball. Like you hit the ball and it actually flies differently, right? There could be a 50-foot difference in a ball hit in Colorado Springs versus Norwich, Connecticut, where I played double-A, where I'd give up some absolute bombs. I would give up some moonshots flying, and I'm looking into the bleachers, and the ball just dropped like 50 feet short of the left field wall for an out. I was like, wow, this place is awesome, right? So that was pretty extreme. But it's also extreme watching a guy throw in the rain, in wind, versus a guy in a dome. Like, those are massive differences. We need to consider those things a little bit more with football analysis. And that's me as Brock Purdy's more, his stats are inflated because of all the stuff around him. It's probably also inflated because he's throwing in great passing conditions as well. I just think we should think about that both from why is the Browns defense better? Maybe that's some of the conditions that they've been able to play in the early going. They've had a lot of rain games. That's going to affect their quarterbacks' numbers. It's going to help their defense's numbers. That stuff matters. As far as the game goes, the Browns staying alive with P.J. Walker as quarterback, moving to 3-2. And, like Deshaun Watson misses the game again, coming off a bye with the rotator cuff bruising or whatever it is. Who knows when he's even going to be coming back. But if you're a Browns fan, you feel like you stole one here, right? Like you stole this win against probably the best team in the NFL, and it counts as a win. You moved to 3-2. That's a massive win to just stay afloat in the AFC.
I would imagine 49ers fans would want mentioned the controversial call hit late on to kind of extend that Browns drive.
Have that in my notes. Yeah.
I mean, I don't really hate that call. A lot of them were whinging about it. I think it was Greg Olsen. There was that crew, right, on the broadcast. I forget who their rules and analyst is, but none of them thought it was a penalty. It's high enough, close enough to the head that you've seen them called. The ball isn't really there. I don't have a huge problem with it.
The rules analyst usually defaults to the defenseless thing, though, right?
Yeah.
And so my issue with a lot of officiating, and I think there was a play in another game that looked bad. They threw the flag. I think they threw the flag just to hey, let's talk about it. And then they pulled it. And so, but a lot of the issue is if the play looks bad, as in a guy got hit really hard, they tend to just throw the flag, no matter where he hit him. And a lot of times the rules analysts will default to well, he's defenseless. It doesn't have to be a hit. It doesn't have to be a blow to the head. It's just is he defenseless? And it's almost like, imagine, Sean Taylor and some of the, heavy hitters in previous years. It's almost if you make it look too good, they're going to flag you. If you hit them too hard, they're going to flag you. That's kind of the issue. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. So it was a great hit on a receiver, kind of off his feet, over the middle, hit him below the head, but hit him really hard. And when you hit them really hard, sometimes they just default. The same thing happens with roughing the passer. If it looks like you absolutely wreck the quarterback because you're too fast and too powerful, you're more likely to get flagged. Sorry. I don't like that at all. And that's why the people that said, for years it was like, well, Cam Newton doesn't get roughing calls, and maybe, Josh Allen might not get roughing calls because they're too big and strong. It doesn't look as bad when they get popped versus, a smaller quarterback.
It was high enough and hard enough, and the ball was long enough gone that you've seen those given all the time. I don't think you can complain too hard about that being a flag in this particular game.
Yeah. Is there anything else?
No, other than that, that was a pretty controversial, correct or not. It was an important call.
That was on the Browns comeback.
Yes.
What ended up being their game-winning drive.
Right.
So, hey, weather game. You're an advocate for throwing it out.
Yeah.
But I think we have to, keep this in the memory banks.
Do you? Is the Super Bowl going to be played in the rain?
No, I'm more talking from a player evaluation standpoint. I do think there's from a player eval standpoint, or from the Browns' defensive numbers are out of this world good. Their EPA per play is by far the best in the NFL. success rate against the Browns defense is way better than any other team. But they've also benefited from things, right? It's like, why do historically a lot of the Northeast teams have some of the best defenses and a lot of the dome teams have some of the worst defenses? It's not because they don't know how to find good players. The conditions matter over time. I'm just saying we have to adjust for those things for the rest of the year and forever in player evaluation. Just bring that back to the forefront a little bit more. Anything else on that game?
No. Big game, big win from the Browns. 49ers drop a game that they probably should have won, but it's not the end of the world. They're still one of the best teams in the NFL and are unlikely to get those kinds of conditions too much the rest of the season. So, worst game of Brock Purdy's career probably doesn't matter. First loss that he's had as a starter in the regular season.
Very first loss. First loss in a start where he's finished the game as well. If this was college football, we would be sitting here talking about the strength of the divisions and how the AFC North went 2-0 against the NFC West. Okay. Because the Cincinnati Bengals win 17-13 over the Seattle Seahawks. I don't love that about college football analysis, Sam. They talk, is the ACC stronger than the SEC this year? That's the analysis. It's like, talk about the teams like we're going to. The Bengals withstand they make a goal line red zone stop here. Not goal line, but tight red zone stop on the Seahawks. Turn it over on downs to hold on 17-13. Fun little back and forth game here between the Seahawks and the Bengals. Geno Smith sacked 4 times, including a couple key ones as they were driving late. They could not put the ball in the end zone, had multiple opportunities to jump the Bengals. A bit of a throwback defensive performance again by Cincinnati.
Yeah, their defense has had a couple of games this year where it's looked more like the Bengals defense that we're accustomed to seeing. I think this was a good one. Like Geno Smith was under pressure constantly throughout this game. I don't know what the numbers are.
I have the numbers. I did write it down here.
Because it was like 50%
as of last
first
night.
Run.
It was about 50. Where are my numbers?
Which, as we've said before, is
25 out of 51 dropbacks.
Yeah,
just about 50%.
It's down a little bit now after a grade review, but it's still going to be super high. That their pass rushing absolutely showed up. It showed up big the later the game got as well.
Yeah.
Like the more Seattle was trying to pass, the more that pass rush started to tee off. The difference in total pressures between the two defenses is wild, and that was a big part of the game. Like this was one of those Geno games where every time I looked up, he was either delivering an absolutely beautiful dime to somebody or delivering the ball to the defense, like nothing in between.
That was literally what happened.
Yeah.
In this game, though. That was kind of what summed it up. I tweeted out this stat yesterday, too. I feel like I've been extra critical of Geno Smith in the red zone over the last couple of years. I'm like, man, got away with another one in the red zone. Got away with another one in the red zone. So he finally throws a red zone interception, throws it into double coverage, right to Mike Hilton. Bad read. I think it was the third quarter, whatever it was. And I had to look it up. I said, Geno Smith has to have the most turnover-worthy plays in the red zone over the last 2 years, and he does. What I didn't realize is he had 0 interceptions in the red zone over the last 2 years until yesterday. That was his first red zone interception. So that's one of those, the broadcast, I don't think showed it or anything, but hey, in the red zone last 2 years, Geno Smith has 33 touchdowns and no interceptions, which are always skewed. Of course, you're going to have way more touchdowns than picks in the red zone. But he really had a 0 for interceptions after throwing the ball to the defense a ton. Didn't get away with this one yesterday. Second interception, a little bit more miscommunication. Cam Taylor-Britt runs the dig. DK Metcalf, I believe, does not run the dig. Geno Smith throws a pick there. But there's another throw into traffic late when he's trying to win the game late in the fourth quarter. So, yeah, there was some rough passes in there, but he also dropped some beauties in there. Tyler Lockett down go ball to Tyler Lockett, go balls to DK Metcalf, one that was dropped, and Tyler Lockett down the seam. And the seam pass was on that game-winning drive attempt, put Seattle, inside the 10. But as we mentioned, the Bengals cracked down. That pass rush got home a bunch and hold on for the 17-13 win.
Yeah, he had this beautiful 30-yard pass to Tyler Lockett that was one of those classic Russell Wilson moon balls, the insane arc on it, ridiculous height and trajectory on the pass to just drop it in the bucket. Yeah, was just such a weird Geno game. Like every pass was either amazing or terrible. But the good ones were spectacular. Bengals defense, really impressive by them. They get Andre Yoshivas a touchdown catch on his birthday. It was nice of them.
That was nice of them.
You know the last receiver they did that to?
I don't.
Andrew Whitworth.
They got Witt a touchdown on his birthday?
They got Big Witt a touchdown on his birthday.
Wow. What a good nugget. Look at you bringing something to the table.
Yeah.
That's the happiest I've seen you since Saturday.
Yeah.
Thinking about Witt catching a touchdown on his birthday.
Good for Witt.
Yeah, I think the story for me was Cincinnati's defense, man. It was a bit of a throwback performance from it was more like the specific players that stepped up. DJ Reader had been a little up and down in recent weeks. He was outstanding. Run game, pushed the pocket a little bit. Classic DJ Reader game. Mike Hilton is in the middle of his worst season. He gets an interception, has a run stop. Cam Sample comes in and has a really nice sack as part of the rotation. Trey Hendrickson did his thing and had a cleanup sack in there and won a bunch against Charles Cross at left tackle. Cam Taylor-Britt had those 2 interceptions and was tracking DK Metcalf. So I thought that was a good all-around team defense win by the Bengals, really cracking down when they needed to.
Yeah, and then on the other side, Seattle secondary, Devin Witherspoon looks pretty amazing in his rookie season.
Yeah, he's awesome.
He looks fantastic. Trey Brown had a spectacular play. And on the other hand, Tariq Woolen was getting wrecked in this game. Like, he gave up a couple of touchdowns, I think. He was getting beaten repeatedly by multiple different receivers. He has not backed up his rookie season so far with, a second good year. But it's kind of been offset by Witherspoon looking amazing right out of the gate.
Yeah, I mean, Woolen still has all that potential with the size, speed, and length, but Witherspoon gives them a ton of flexibility, as I keep saying, if they want to play a little bit more man. But like they're moving Devin Witherspoon around, and he is a playmaker, man. It's been fun to watch him play. It's always fun to watch Devin Witherspoon play. Joe Burrow still looking healthy, but didn't play his best game, right? So he didn't grade all that well. He did have a turnover-worthy play on that interception. So Burrow wasn't great. But he has those plays where he's extending and probably holding the ball too long, and some of those plays where it's like, no, yes, no. And that, to me, that's actually encouraging, even though like the plays themselves weren't a thing. The fact he clearly has way more confidence in that calf.
Yeah, the calf looks pretty much healthy. I mean, he's doing things that he wouldn't have even thought about doing the first game or two back with that calf injury. He had one of the most weird plays I've seen where he took off running and was sort of scrambling into open field and then realized he was about to cross the line of scrimmage and didn't want to. It's like, the space, you instinctively go to the space, and then you're like, no, I actually don't want this. I'm going to back up. And he just turned around and started running back behind the line of scrimmage to find a pass. He's like, I don't want to take the 5 yards that are available in the scramble. I'm actually going to completely run back into the pocket that isn't there anymore and try and find a pass play. It's like, what? What are you doing? I've never seen that before.
And I'm calling that a positive.
I mean,
that he's playing like that. He's playing with that level of confidence in his calf. I think it'll bode well going
bizarre
forward.
Play.
So huge win for the Bengals, moving to 3-3. They're heading to a bye. Remember, they started 0-2, started 1-3, and they're going to be hanging around. Seahawks fall to 3-2. Tough loss for them, but as I mentioned, we've got the Niners also lost in the NFC West, so they can stay a little bit, within a game there at least, game and a half of the Niners. All right, let's go to Washington Commanders 24, Atlanta Falcons 16. Commanders moving to 3-3 here. Falcons fall to 3-3. Had an opportunity to grab first place in the NFC South. Man, the roller coaster ride of Desmond Ridder at quarterback, I think, is the story here for the Falcons. 3 interceptions in this game. So we went in London, multiple pick game just 2 weeks ago. Last week, plays probably the best game of his career. It was at home. He had been undefeated at home since grade school or whatever it was. And he finally loses at home in a game where, I don't know if it was just the Fox broadcast or whatever, just kept capturing Arthur Smith and his reactions after every single pick. And it was a lot of hands on your head. What are you doing on those interceptions? So Ridder ends up with 3 picks. Washington forced him, of course. But that was very much the story of the game. Falcons had the ball a lot, drove, a bunch and could not put points on the board.
Yeah. It was almost like the really good game from Ritter kind of gave him a misplaced confidence in his own abilities. It's like, I got this.
Like, for perspective, right? Time of possession, it just tells like a game flow story, not a domination story or anything. But Falcons had the ball for 36 minutes. Commanders only 23. Falcons had 402 total yards. Commanders had 193. So they were under 200 yards. So the Falcons having 400 yards, but not converting on third downs enough. And, of course, the turnovers, like those are the obviously the things that end up being the difference in the game.
Yeah. There was one bizarre play where, you know the way we said that Bijan Robinson must lead to the league in one-handed catches? It's almost like he's so conditioned to them now. He went what looked like a really well-thrown Desmond Ridder pass. He dived at it in the air, tried to OBJ one-handed pluck it out of the sky. And okay, even for somebody that's gotten quite used to one-handed catches, that is aggressively optimistic. And maybe you want to try and catch that more conventionally.
Didn't OBJ go through that phase where it felt like he was trying to one-hand too many? Let's just make a spectacular catch.
Maybe.
I feel like other receivers have gone through that phase of let me one-hand everything instead of just making the play that's there. Drake London continues to ball out. Like I said, the Falcons offense. Like if you take out the turnovers and look what they were able to do offensively, getting Drake London involved. They got Kyle Pitts involved in the red zone, scheming him open in the red zone for a touchdown. Amazing. Jonnu Smith finds the end zone. They are difficult covers, but you've got a tight red zone pick by Ritter. I mean, just too many turnover-worthy plays for Ritter, and it just offsets what this offense was able to do.
Yeah, two very unusual quarterbacks in this game. Sam Howell had one of his better passes dropped by Jahan Dotson, was probably a touchdown that would have made the game look even, more, or would have been even more comfortable. Obviously, Sam Howell's problem is the sacks still continues being a thing. This was a smaller problem in this game than it has been in others, but still pretty significant.
I mean, because they won. He got sacked on 5 out of 30 dropbacks. That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's a crazy high number. And he ran into, I looked through the 5. He was, I don't know what we've charted exactly, but I saw him directly responsible for 3 out of 5. Like just running into the defense. And then the other 2, probably avoidable.
Right.
A little bit of pressure. And then the guy who got the sack, it wasn't actually the offensive lineman who gave up the pressure. So it's going to look like the O-line didn't actually give up sacks necessarily. But yeah, 5 on 30 dropbacks is not great.
Like Calais Campbell reached 100 career sacks in this game.
Yeah.
But I was writing he might hit 110 by the end of the game, just the way Sam Howell plays. Like, it's madness. But this was the kind of game, like this game was Sam Howell in an absolute nutshell, which is outside of the sacks, it's good.
Yeah.
Like, he makes a lot of really nice plays. Some of the sort of balance and body control and scrambling and bouncing off people is good. And then generally he doesn't actually make that many mistakes with the ball outside of that nightmare game he had earlier in the year. But the sacks is just every now and again there's way more negative plays than there should be. And those are drive-killing plays sometimes, right? And it's like it's a negative. It's generally a preferable negative to a guy that's just airmailing the ball to the defense constantly. But it's a curious flaw that it does seem to be completely inherent in him. Like, I'm not sure you can get rid of that. That's something that's always been there from his play. It's a weird characteristic of his game throughout college, in different offenses, and in the NFL now. Part of his makeup, part of his profile as a quarterback is he just walks into sacks constantly. And like, those don't show up in box scores as, they don't impact your passer rating, but they torpedo drives, offensive drives for teams, right? And those are negative plays that he has to overcome that other guys don't.
I tweeted about the 5 sacks and how I didn't really think that it was the offensive line's issue. Coming into the game, the Washington pass blocking grade ranked 9th in the league.
Yeah.
And so I'm not trying to pile on Sam Howell. I'm just trying to add proper perspective to the sack totals are largely him. On the other hand, when he throws the ball, it is awesome, right? He threw the ball extremely well yesterday, as you had said. And when I was tweeting through this yesterday, somebody pulled out a comp and he said, "Is this just like Rob Johnson? Remember Rob Johnson at all?" Of course I do, because he had that one great game with the Jaguars. We reference him here on the show every now and then. But when he went to Buffalo, remember he was battling Doug Flutie.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this was before you really, you knew when a guy gets sacked 5 or 6 times in a game, it was bad. But a lot of times it was like, well, the line's bad. And then Flutie would come in and not get sacked, And it was like, well, Rob Johnson throws the ball well. And the Bills want Rob Johnson to be the quarterback. Probably because when he throws it, it's awesome. It looks good. It's pretty. It's accurate. Throws the ball really well. But he keeps getting sacked 4, 5, 6 times a game. And I was like, wow, that's actually an awesome comp for right now for the way maybe Sam Howell's playing.
Even now, I don't think people have any real perception in terms of how much quarterbacks influence that sack rate, right? So the David Carr thing, rather. David Carr, up until this season, was the all-time single-season most sacked quarterback ever, right? Now, that was an expansion team, offensive line in Houston. It was almost certainly garbage, but none of us have any idea how much of that was David Carr. And I suspect a lot more than people think it was, right? How much he was causing that. And there's something too, like Dan Marino went over 700 dropbacks one time without a sack. That's not because Miami had the greatest offensive line that was ever assembled by man. I'm sure they had a good offensive line, but Dan Marino never took sacks. He's the opposite end of the spectrum from Sam Howell. And it makes a huge impact. Like Washington's pass blocking efficiency as an offensive line is 12th in the NFL. And that's with him creating this extra pressure that, just by holding on the ball too long, dillying in the pocket and making their lives more difficult. They're the 12th best pass blocking offensive line in the NFL by simple pass blocking efficiency metrics. And yet he's on pace to be sacked more than any human that's ever walked the earth. Like, it's wild how bad he is at that.
So on the other side, I just want to circle back to what I thought the difference. I want to go pick on Ritter again.
Cool.
What was the difference in the game? Fourth quarter, you have a pick to end it with 31 seconds left. It was a desperation down 8, last second drive that ends in an interception. But fourth quarter, about 5 minutes left. It's 3rd and 7 on the goal line, and Ritter just kind of throws it up, man. I don't even know what the entire concept was. Drake London's kind of running a fade to the middle-ish, not the middle of the end zone, but it's a tight split, and he's running a fade. And the pass is nowhere near him. All-out blitz from Washington, and he just chucks it up. And that was the hands on the head. That was this reaction.
Surrender Cobra.
Surrender Cobra. That's yeah. Arthur was not pleased. And then I think it was Jamin Davis that had the game-clinching interception. He whooped Bijan on a slant. Whooped him on a slant and picked it off. Really nice game by Jamin Davis in Washington. The other thing that was notable by the Commanders, Emmanuel Forbes did not play in this game. Active, but did not play. Remember, the rookie was at number 15 pick overall, whatever he was. Really struggling early in the season. They're trying to figure out how to get his confidence back.
Benching him, that'll do it.
A healthy scratch, as they say. And, Washington did look better. And Washington did a really nice job bottling up Atlanta's run game. Creative run game, and, one that had been getting, players in space and everything. You got Tyler Algier and Bijan. Bijan averaged under 3 yards per carry. Tyler Algier a little under 4. So Washington did a nice job up front, stopping the run.
It was also a bizarre sequence. Atlanta was down, I think, 8 late in the game. 5 minutes ago-ish, they had this long drive that had chewed up like half the quarter. They're now down by the goal line, and they get delay of game, right? What is it, 3rd and 2, down by at the 2-yard, 3rd and goal at the 2. Delay of game, backed up, 3rd and 7. They sort of, this was an interception, but they almost got delay of game again, like consecutive plays where they just couldn't get to the line of scrimmage to run a play. Down 8, goal to go. It's like, what is this? This is one of the most inept sequences of offense you're ever going to see. And then backed it up by then throwing an interception on that play as well. It's like, God, okay, whatever about just occasional bad decisions, this is a whole sequence of completely inept offense that you can't win with.
So Commanders win, man, 24-16. Let's go Minnesota Vikings 19, Chicago Bears 13. Vikings with the win, they move to 2-4. Bears fall to 1-5. Justin Fields was sacked on 4 out of 14, 15 dropbacks, whatever it was early on. And he gets hurt. He got a hand injury.
Dislocated thumb.
Yeah, so he couldn't even grip the ball. Couldn't come in. Couldn't come back in. Tried to. Tyson Bagent comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And D2. Was it D2? The rookie comes in. It was a close game. And then a little strip sack, fumble recovery by Jordan Hicks to put the Vikings up by 2 scores. Bears battled back to get it within 1 score, but not enough. Vikings moving to 2-4 here.
What a weird game.
It was.
Like, everything, the start of the game was like the teams just sort of trading ineptitude, like field goals. It's 6-6, and then there's a sort of hit as he threw interception thing by Cousins, a hit as he threw interception thing by Fields. It's like we're just trading in this game until, Fields goes down, Tyson Bagent comes in. That starts to tilt it even more in Minnesota because almost immediately he has that fumble on a big, heavy pressure blitz by the Vikings, return for a touchdown, and now it's like, all right, now you got to hold to dig out of, which it doesn't help.
As is the case when we analyze the Giants and now the Vikings every single week on our preview show. How will the opposing team handle the blitz? You're going to see it. You might see it 50% of the time. You might see it 60% of the time. The very first drop back, unblocked rusher sacks Justin Fields. It's like, all right, this could be bad. Fields was coming off a game where he had 7 or 8 touchdowns in the last 2 games. You look great against Washington on Thursday Night Football. Looked good against the Broncos 2 weeks ago. And first play, unblocked and a sack. But the Fields ends up, like I said, sacked. It was 4 times on 17 dropbacks. One of them was a 3-man rush, right? It wasn't the blitz. It was a 3-man rush where Fields holds it forever. There was a failed stunt in there. It wasn't just overload blitzes, but as you mentioned, when the rookie agent comes in, Vikings get him there. I mean, that kind of sums up the Vikings defense, right? A little boom or bust. We're going to be aggressive. We're going to try to create confusion up front, even if it is one of the rare times we're going to rush 3 and drop 8, just to mix it up, create a little bit of confusion. And they did just enough against, Fields, who's not, we went through his blitz numbers the other day. He wins against the blitz a lot of times with his legs, not so much with his arm. And then Bagent, who just, probably hasn't seen enough of this, and that ends up being the difference in the game for Minnesota.
Yeah, and it's difficult to know how much of this was him getting the protection wrong, but on that immediate, fumble under pressure thing, like the Vikings stacked 6 different guys on the line of scrimmage. There was a 7th linebacker who could have blitzed given what they were doing, and the protection blew it completely. Like a defensive tackle had a free run at Tyson Bagent, wasn't blocked by any lineman, wasn't even picked up by the running back coming across formation. It's like, all right, that might have been Bagent's fault, not getting the right protection called, but he's immediately in serious trouble, from that blitz that they sent. So, that's just a rough spot to be in for a guy coming in, making essentially your first serious game time.
According to our numbers, the Vikings blitzed 27 out of 33 dropbacks.
Sounds about right.
Does that sound right? 27 out of 33. And they did have a sack on a 3-man rush in there as well.
The thing is, like Bagent, I thought, it played well. It's another one of those idiotic sounding statements. Like, other than the 2 really bad plays, he played well,
Replay your week 1 Bryce Young
For
analysis.
Bryce Young, that's exactly what it is. He had another mistake in there as well where they went for it on 4th and 3. I think he chose the wrong decision. Like he had one quick out route that I think was open, and 4th and 3, that's probably the one you should be targeting. Instead, he tried to fit it into the gap deeper down the sideline, and his receiver couldn't get his feet down. Like it was a catch, but it was just out of bounds. It's like there's a few times I think recently where teams or quarterbacks have gone for it on 4th and something reasonably short, and have taken a more aggressive shot than A, you needed to, and B, is probably wise. It's like those are, the problem with that is they're low percentage plays. So, like, trying to fit this ball deeper down than you need to on 4th and 3 is just like, take 3 yards. If there's 3 yards there, take them, because all that matters is getting the first down on that play.
I mean, that's when we run percentages and all that, it's largely based off 3 yards is easier to get than 10. So so chances are something else is going to come open underneath, which is why you do that. Kirk Cousins also had one of those weird games. 2 of his best passes end up falling incomplete. Nice one. Was it Addison that dropped it up the sideline? There's a drop on a go ball up the sideline. Had a nice one in between coverage to T.J. Hawkinson. A couple nice throws in there, and a couple, at least one really bad Kirk play.
Yeah.
Where he throws it backwards, trying to avoid a sack. That was really close. So he's trying to avoid a sack, tries to throw it away, throws it backwards, which we've seen a few times from Anthony Richardson. Did it a few weeks ago. So Cousins tries to throw it away, ends up throwing it backwards, which is a fumble. And T.J. Edwards just barely lands out of bounds when he's trying to recover it. So the Vikings got away from with that one. And then the other one, it's just funny because it happened to Cousins. There's a strip sack in there where it's like just as he's trying to release the ball, it pops up and it goes forward. Tremaine Edmonds makes the diving interception, but they called it a fumble. They called it a forward fumble. Saved Kirk's passer rating a little bit. So it was a strip sack. It was a strip sack where the ball went forward. Most of the time when the ball comes out of QB's hands, it goes forward. It's a pass. Counts as a pass, but Cousins gets saved an interception on that. Wasn't really even his fault. It was a bad block, and it was basically a strip sack. It was just funny that on the ball, on the throw that went forward, it was like, nope, empty hand. That's a fumble. Saved the passer rating a little bit.
First,
maybe he called the booth.
Yeah.
He gets to the sideline, he's on the phone, and he's not talking to the offensive coordinator. He's like, hey, guys, that was...
talking in New York.
You see that open hand?
Make sure you tell
We'll call that a fumble officially.
First game with no Justin Jefferson for the Vikings, so we got to see what that offense would look like a little bit. It's funny, Brandon Powell, the 4th receiver, becomes the 3rd guy. Jordan Addison, KJ Osborne, number 1, number 2. Brandon Powell comes in, plays, a ton of snaps as that 3rd receiver in 11 personnel. That's the only wide receivers that played in the game, just those 3. Like, that's the offense from now on without Justin Jefferson in there. T.J. Hawkinson, obviously, plays a ton. Alexander Mattison got 1 million checkdowns. But, that's the offense now is if Jordan Addison and K.J. Osborne and T.J. Hawkinson can't make plays, Brandon Powell is the other guy that's there, and other than that, it's checkdowns.
I won't be able to know every injury, but I did see Marcus Davenport came limping off at one point for the Vikings. Only 17 snaps for him. So what did you end up making of the Vikings offense? Like I said, it felt like Cousins had a few nice throws. They get dropped. So that's going to show in his production, right? Like his stats were okay. Only 5.8 yards per attempt. You're just missing that, obviously. You're missing that go-to guy, right? I mean, when you bump everybody up the depth chart, you just miss those plays. Hey, it's 3rd and 10. Hey, it's 3rd and 8. Hey, we need a play. Hey, it's the deep crosser where he's just going to run through the defense. You're missing a lot of those freebies from a production standpoint, and just having a guy that's going to get open over and over again with Justin Jefferson. Any other thoughts on the offense? They couldn't get the run game going against a not so good Bears defense here. So
yeah, it didn't look good. I mean, the fact that they don't really have the fact that they didn't even do anything other than just elevate number 4 and let's just play as is, and hope that works is not the most encouraging thing in the world. Cousins played pretty well, it just changes when you don't have Justin Jefferson there. The whole dynamic is different. Their offensive line gave up a reasonable amount of pressure against what I think is still the worst pass rush in the NFL. That's not a great sign either. I mean, they got a win against Chicago, and I think showed that they are a better team than Chicago. Maybe they wouldn't if Justin Fields had stayed healthy for the whole game. But I think it also showed, the Vikings are not rescuing this season and getting to any kind of half-decent record. They're going to be rough this year.
Chicago in an interesting spot now. They're 1-5, and they have the Panthers pick. The Panthers are 0-6. We'll be citing this probably every single week. They're still in line to have the top 2 picks in the NFL draft in a year where, look, Caleb Williams. I don't know if you saw Caleb Williams the other night while you were in mourning. Had a rough game, worst game of his career, statistically, against Notre Dame the other day. But it's supposed to be Caleb Williams and Drake May, Marvin Harrison Jr. They get maybe the best pass protecting left tackle that we've seen, all coming out, and we get the Bears potentially with the top 2 picks right now. And you add that to now Justin Fields has the thumb. Depends on X-rays and what he can hit. If it's not broken, which I don't think it is, whatever.
Dislocated.
It's dislocated. So it's going to be a pain management type of thing. But do the Bears have a choice to make here? Fields is kind of playing for his future in Chicago, but they could also, the Bears could say, hey, we're rolling with Bagent right now for a few games.
Yeah, I mean, from their perspective, I'd be quite interested in seeing what Bagent can do for a few games. I don't know how close they are already to being like, we're pretty much done with Fields, right? Like,
I don't think so because, look, rewind 3 days. You and I both picked Chicago because it was a slow start to the season, and Fields and the offense looked like, hey, maybe they flipped a switch. Yeah, they played Denver. But
even then, you're not like, Fields has turned a corner. He's definitely, like, if they get the number 1 and number 2 pick, or even just one of the two, they're not, Fields is done. They're
probably going QB.
Yeah. But so at which point you're kind of already out on Fields.
Ryan Poles, we'll have a whole show on this. Ryan Poles was in attendance for Caleb Williams' worst game.
So now he's out.
There was Kwesi was there. Joe Shane was there. For
Everybody
the Giants.
was there.
A lot of people were there.
Entire game is going to cause a month of people going.
I was there. I just saw him in person. He was trash.
Right.
Saw him in person. Anyway, just interesting times here in Chicago, of course. All right, I got to tell you about our friends over at AG1, the daily foundational nutrition supplement that supports whole body health. I drink it every day. Kick my day off with my caffeine, drink my coffee, drink my AG1. Just mix it with some water, shake it up and go. Makes me feel great, gets me all the key nutrients that I need to start the day, man. So just start my day with AG1, just like when I was a top-notch athlete, right? Now I'm a football analyst, maybe not top notch, but my brain, mind, we got to be sharp here, Sam.
Now you're just a guy breaking 3 Bill certified chairs.
I am not breaking any of the chairs over here. Maybe AG1 will help me lose some weight too. Anyway, I get 75 high quality ingredients to give me all the key daily nutrients to support energy, focus, strength, and clarity. It's this micro habit that delivers the macro benefits here on the PFF NFL podcast. So you guys should join us too. Cover all your nutritional bases with AG1. You just mix the small scoop with water and mix it and just drink it up. Get going. Less than $3 a day. Gotta love that as well. So it's a great deal, and it's an effective daily habit with highly quality sourced ingredients. Win-win for all of us here. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/PFF. That's drinkag1.com/PFF. That's the number 1, by the way. drinkag1.com/PFF. Go check it out right now. All right, the last of the 1 o'clock games, I believe here. New Orleans Saints at the Houston Texans. Texans win 20-13, moving to 3-3. Saints fall to 3-3. Another hard-fought battle. I don't know if I could quote our friend Bobby, but maybe it was an ugly win for Houston.
I think we can.
Is that okay?
I think we can put him on the record without it being on the record. That's, I think,
we were congratulating him on the win.
Fairly benign thing to put out there.
He just said, ugly win, boys, ugly win. But it was a win nonetheless. It counts in the win-loss column. There was a Saints stat in here from Jeff Duncan. It's just reciting what happened, but it kind of sums things up, if I could find it. Can I find it? The Saints' last 4 drives of the game ended at the Texans' 27, 11, 15, and 24-yard lines, and they only got 3 points out of it. Between fourth down failures, missed field goal. So there was the Saints in the red zone, from their perspective in this game. The Saints in the red zone continue to have massive, massive issues. Derek Carr, 3rd worst passing grade in the red zone this year, and he's got a ton of attempts.
Yeah.
Another red zone failure.
Multiple missed field goals is not going to help you when you're trying to peg back a relatively low-scoring game, and you're trying to get within a score, et cetera. So that was definitely hurting. Now, that being said, they also, Derek Carr got bailed out by throwing an absolute mile underthrown to Rashid Shaheed, who then turned into Randy Moss and, plucked it out over the top of a defender's head and made the play. It's not like everything was going well until they hit the red zone and then missed field goals, but that's always going to make it difficult. First interception of C.J. Stroud's career, bad turnover-worthy play. One of those maybe had been coming somewhere down the line, he'd had some mistakes before that hadn't been punished. I was pretty impressed though that didn't shake his confidence at all. He just went right back to work, kept on trucking, looked good again. even with the first interception of his career, I think that was an impressive performance from Stroud. And I think they have this weird dynamic where he's still not great under pressure, but they're doing a good enough job of keeping him on within the structure of the offense, and he's doing that at an incredibly high level.
I was mixed on it. I was impressed how he bounced back, absolutely. And I think the adversity thing is really important, right? I mean, the best quarterbacks of all time, the greatest quarterbacks, all have failures. They all have bad plays, and they bounce back from them, right? They don't let them snowball. That's a very good sign by Stroud. The interception was horrendous, right? Yeah. And he bounced back great. He also had some other misses too, right? I mean, he had some other just clean, straight-up misses, uncharacteristic of what we had seen from Stroud in previous times. I thought they got it back a little bit by working the play-action game, couple big plays to Nico Collins. They did a nice job of, hey, some of the simple reads and basic stuff he's missing this today. They got some play-action chunk plays in there, some nice red zone plays, a really nice read, I thought, by Stroud on the Robert Woods touchdown in the red zone. So, yeah, I'm kind of with you, grade-wise, because the pick's in there and there's some other misses. Grade-wise, it's not going to be his bad game or his best game, but seeing him bounce back from adversity was good, and winning ugly, right? That's huge for the Texans. Their defense was rallying and just they made those plays for everything. I'm saying blaming the Saints in their red zone and relying on field goals or whatever it might be that they end up missing. The Texans did a really nice job cracking down on the Saints. The Saints are becoming one of the more difficult teams, I think, to figure out here across the NFL week to week.
Linebacker Blake Cashman was
everywhere. Dude's everywhere.
It was insane. What is he going to end up with on our numbers for tackle count? Because it was something absurd for the official number or the unofficial number. The NFL's number it was 15.
If you go to his player page, we do have the defensive player. No, we don't. Do we not have the player stats report? I have failed.
You have failed.
In Ultimate. We have 5 run defense tackles. And this is good stuff here. 7 in coverage.
Okay.
So that's 12 solos by our numbers, at least.
Which is a pretty crazy number. He was.
What did the NFL have?
I think he was at I don't know what the solo number was, but he was 15.
No, Cashman felt like he was everywhere. I mean, the other Jalen Petry's playing pretty good football now this year too, making a lot of plays for Houston on the back end after he missed 1 million tackles last year. You've been very kind lately. Here's this number or this stat that's bad, but I'm actually encouraged by it. Jalen Petry last year, he had so many missed tackles, but you'd actually say, if you take out the missed tackles,
look, you got to be in a position.
There's a promising future for Petry. So he's cut down on the missed tackles this year, and he's grading well. Jimmy Ward's been a nice addition in the slot for Houston. So they're getting a lot of, another good game by Steven Nelson. They're getting a lot of good contributions by players.
Really good game by Will Anderson as well. He looked fantastic as a pass rusher for them. So there was a lot to like about this Texans team in this game.
Yeah, for sure. D'Amico Ryan's got them playing hard there. The Saints, I'm trying to figure out Carr in the Saints offense here, because I went through all Carr's throws specifically, and there's a lot of times he just doesn't look like he's throwing on time. I mean, there's certainly some rhythm throws in there, and he gets it. There's just a bunch where he doesn't. There's a lot of double pumps. There's a lot of just a little extra tap of the ball, and there's something missing. I can't put my finger on it, but there's something missing with the Saints offense, because for the 6th straight week, the 9th straight week even maybe, because of the preseason, the Saints have these playmakers, right? Rashid Shaheed should not be mossing people at the catch point, but he is. We should be talking more about Rashid Shaheed being the incredible breakout player that he's been over the last couple of years. Maybe we talk about him. You have a Chris Olave. You still have Michael Thomas. You have all these guys. There's something missing from the offense. And that includes, I think there was a play late where, the Texans are being aggressive. They're coming all out on Carr. He's got to throw it up to a spot. He throws more of a corner route. Shaheed runs a slot fade. I think Carr was trying to get him to run a corner. There's too many miscommunications, Carr feeling like he's a step off, he's a tick late. There's something off with this offense, and then it just looks way worse in the red zone. Carr finishes 1 for 3 with 2 yards and a sack in the red zone in this one. As I said, I think that it's just a massive issue for the Saints.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is that offensive line is going back to when it was sort of problematic levels. They seem to be
Cesar Ruiz got whooped, man.
They seem to be an institutionally very strange team when it comes to the offensive line. They'll spend a high pick on somebody who doesn't work out and then reward him with a giant contract and be saddled with him for years later. Like they've only just got out from the Andres Pete contract that they gave him, which at the time made no sense. Like, this guy has not played well. Why are we giving him a giant contract extension just because we drafted him in the first round? You know the way Dallas get lambasted a lot for wanting to sort of validate their own draft decisions by giving them the next contract? So you give him the next contract, you're like, see, he worked out. It's a good pick. But he isn't. He's not good, so you're just compounding a bad choice with another bad choice. So the Saints just get out from the Andres Pete thing and then seem to repeat the mistake with Cesar Ruiz, who for most of his career has played badly. It's like, well, now you're stuck with this guy. What?
I think we're just in this world where, look, PFF grades aren't gospel, Sam. It's not the only thing.
No, but you didn't need PFF grades to know that Andres Pete wasn't good.
I think PFF grades are pretty good, obviously. And I would say Andres Pete in particular is a guy that will say people around the league maybe a little bit higher on him than we were. Apparently, I think people around the league, a.k.a. the Saints, a little higher on a Cesar Ruiz who gave up 9 pressures yesterday. Mm-hmm. We're just kind of seeing things differently. But, yeah, the Saints, they got whooped up front, man.
But the problem is eventually you sort of see the light. If you realize that earlier, you might have saved yourself a lot of money and a lot of pain.
I'm encouraging more and more teams to rely on the proper PFF grades to help evaluate players. And some teams do.
It just feels a lot of teams seem to, and this is an offensive line thing and has been for a long time, teams seem to very stubbornly hold on to this idea of, no, this guy's good. We like something in him. Usually, athleticism, measurables, strength, whatever it is. We're going to start him endlessly. And then eventually they give up on it and they're done. Like that guy, the reason you can see that it's a bad sort of process is as soon as you eventually realize and cut bait, nobody else goes running after him. Remember when Davin Joseph was a thing? People were like, Davin Joseph's a great guard. You
can't go back.
Nobody
remembers Davin Joseph. Nobody remembers
first-round pick.
The PFF battles between PFF and Bucs media and Bucs fans.
First-round pick.
Davin
Joseph started forever. And there was a collection of people, mainly the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, that were like, this guy's good. See, he's a starting guard. He's got power. He's got whatever. And then as soon as Tampa Bay eventually decided, you know what, it's done. He actually isn't that great. I don't think he got a job anywhere else. He was just out of the league immediately. And it's like he'd been that guy for a decade, and you just clung on to it. The Saints are doing that with a succession of offensive linemen, and it's hurting them. They used to have one of the best offensive lines in the league. And slowly, bit by bit, with each subsequent mistake on a personnel level, it's gotten worse.
On the other hand, I just want to give a shout out again to the Houston offensive line. There'll be a couple below average grades in there, but George Fant, Laramie Tunsil, Shaq Mason, all grading well in pass protection. It does feel like when I'm watching Stroud, the times that he can get to his second read, it's because the offensive line overall has been holding up. So credit Stroud for being able to get to second reads and the footwork and the accuracy and the mechanics we've been talking about, but Houston giving him that little extra tick in the pocket, I think, has helped a ton in the early going.
Yeah, I think one of the other elements of that Shanahan scheme, coaching tree, etc., it's succeeding in helping every offensive line that's running it right now. I mean, the one of the stories of the season that nobody is mentioning is Miami's offensive line looks fine despite having some pretty terrible personnel on it right now. They're putting up record-setting points, and the offensive line is not undermining that despite starting some players that you would be like, this guy is a liability. San Francisco before the season. It's like that offensive line on paper is not very good. Nobody notices, doesn't matter. Houston's offensive line looks really good. Like every single offense that's taken this Shanahan tree, the line looks fine.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. It is a huge factor that they can improve personnel. Absolutely.
Like Jared Patterson, 6th round rookie, looks fine in center.
Yeah,
it's not a problem.
All right, man. Time for the 4:00 games. Las Vegas Raiders 21, New England Patriots 17. Patriots, we talked about the sky falling last week.
Mm-hmm.
It's even lower. Patriots fall to 1-5. Raiders moving to 3-3. Their defense continues to impress. As always with defense, we try to figure out in a game how much of that was bad offense, how much of it was good defense, but little of both in this game. The Patriots in this game finally surpassed, for the season, their season point total finally surpassed the Week 3 total of the Miami Dolphins of 70. But yeah, ugly game again for New England, and credit the Raiders, man. We've got a lot of storylines coming out of this. Jimmy Garoppolo gets hurt, back injury. He was trying to play through it in the first half. You could tell he was really hurting. Brian Hoyer comes in to start in the second half, hits a 48-yarder to Trey Tucker, which is one of the bigger plays in the game. So Hoyer holds the fort for the Raiders, who were just trying to grind it out and let their defense win it, and that's what happened. Max Crosby seals the deal. The game-winning drive attempt for New England becomes a safety for the Raiders because Max Crosby, as we mentioned on the show the other day, Max Crosby against whoever's playing right tackle for the Patriots looks like a mismatch, and it certainly was.
Yeah. The New England offense was just, like, some of the numbers surrounding them this season have been absolutely insane. They were outscored, what was it, like 85-6 over a sequence of 10 quarters of football. They had no touchdowns in 12 straight quarters.
They had 27. We're just going to go back and forth and pinball on. Let's popcorn a few stats here. 27 straight drives where they didn't reach the red zone.
29 that ended.
Ended up at 29. There was 27 at one point and ended up at 29.
The 30th was their first trip to the red zone.
They now have 72 points on the season, which is 2 more than the Dolphins had in Week 3. That was what I was trying to eloquently say a little while ago.
Mac Jones remains committed to some of the dumbest and most absurd turnover-worthy plays you're going to see.
So that was another one I had to kind of like look up on the fly. Mac Jones leaves the pocket and chucks it up into coverage once again. This year, Mac Jones now has 5 turnover-worthy plays on outside the pocket plays, scrambled drills, broken plays, basically, outside the pocket. 5 turnover-worthy plays, most in the NFL. But he's only about 20th in actual attempts on those plays outside the pocket. So that includes fumble 6 against Dallas, this pick against the Raiders. It's outside of structure Mac Jones has been worse than in structure Mac Jones.
He is unrecognizable right now from the quarterback he was and was supposed to be. I mean, the thing that Mac Jones was good at was decision-making, quickly reading through things, delivering the ball accurately and intelligently to the correct spot at the correct time. And number one, he's not doing that at all at the moment. And number two, I mean, that interception, like, Mac Jones thought he was Patrick Mahomes for a minute. And so what is this? You're running out of the pocket, which, number one, is not a Mac Jones thing. Number two, you then decide to, he's got the ball tucked. He's, running, and then he's like, no, I've seen a guy open, pulls it down, and tries to do this like Patrick Mahomes, off balance, no feet underneath him, throw back across his body, which is actually open, by the way. Like, were he Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or anybody else that does this on a regular basis, he could have delivered the ball perfectly reasonably to the receiver standing there waiting for it. Instead, he lofts it 5 yards over his head, further inside, right to the safety. It's like, what the hell was that?
On the other hand, to probably sum up New England's failures here, they pick up, I think it was a slant that was close to a first down. So it's fourth quarter, you're down 2, you get the comeback attempt here. New England's kept it close against the Raiders. They have a chance to go win. They have a penalty, whatever, that makes it 2nd and 11. Mac Jones unleashes by far his best throw of the game and of the season, right into Devontae Parker's hands from his own end zone. It's going to put Parker and the Patriots into Raiders territory, and Parker drops it.
Yeah.
Next play, we have a delay of game, and then sack in the end zone, game's over.
Yes.
So when Mac, were you going to question the throw?
No, I was going to question the drop.
I mean, I don't really care. It was a great throw that was in his hands.
Yeah, but people are like, it's one of those plays where
I'm saying there's a point. It's a
great
throw that should be caught. I mean, if you want to give credit somewhere else too.
I don't even know so it's a great throw that lands in the hands of his receivers, right? And when that happens, everyone immediately just goes, it's a drop. The receiver sucks. And the announcers have a similar lack of nuance that like that's a play you got to make. Marcus Epps arrives right at the same time that ball arrives, and the contact he makes on Parker moves his arms, right? Like he's going there, he's going to catch the ball. The safety comes in and connects with his arms, which changes everything. Like your hands are no longer where you put your hands to catch the football. Yes, maybe you want Parker to catch it anyway, but I think that's a great play by the safety who breaks that up.
Okay, well, you're right. I'm rewatching it again. It was a great play. You're talking about it from like that's how we talk about it here at PFF from how are we evaluating players. Like we got to give credit to the defense as well. From a New England perspective, the throw itself is there.
Yes.
And whether it's called a drop or not, you're right. I mean, we have like 20 different ways to, call what we call an incompletion. The throw's there. It should be caught overall. And that's the difference in the game. Not making that play versus making it. And then 2 plays later, Max Crosby's tackling you in the end zone and this game's over.
That's why I thought the announcers had a lack of nuance. It was Tony Romo in the booth, right?
Yeah, Romo and Nance were in there for the practice run for the Super Bowl.
That's right, the dry run.
Yeah, they had a couple different now that I knew that it was a dry run and I saw that, they have these interesting different camera angles, like you could tell they're trying some stuff for the Super Bowl.
I need to fly on the wall in the meeting where that was pitched to somebody. Guys, we're going to need a dry run in Vegas because we have the Super Bowl there in February. So, we're going to we need to be there this week. Big weekend in Vegas, and if you could just increase the discretionary budget for that weekend, that would be great.
It's more like we're going to have you go do a 1-4 versus a 2-3 team. You good? No. What's in Vegas? All right, fine. It's fine. Jimmy Garoppolo.
But you better be prepared for some hefty steak bills to come in.
Garoppolo and the Raiders offense looked pretty good in the first half. Michael Mayer, breakout game here. He goes 5 catches for 75 yards, looks all Gronk-like against the former Patriots on a couple plays. Jacoby Myers goes, New England media was trying to keep an eye on Jacoby Myers, right? That's the story. You let this guy walk. You're worried about receivers, but you let Jacoby Myers walk. Well, he picks up a first down and a touchdown on the same drive. So I was like, there you go. Revenge game for Jacoby Myers. But then Garoppolo gets hurt. You could tell he's hurting, and Hoyer comes in and holds the fort in the second half.
Yeah, the Patriots were doing a good job of bracketing Devontae Adams. Like they were going out of their way to double team him effectively on every play. Even on plays where it didn't look pre-snap like they were going to, they would sort of rotate to these bracket coverages. And I think the Raiders were doing a pretty good job of recognizing that and using Adams basically as a decoy. Like they had a bunch of plays where they sort of used the gravity of Devontae Adams, which was sucking an extra defender out of the coverage and then attacking the one-on-one that was leaving. They hit Trey Tucker with a really nice deep pass in exactly that scenario. Safety jumps down to double cover Devontae Adams, and they just go right over the top to this DB who's now one-on-one in trail technique and just, i.e., beaten, and just hit Trey Tucker over the top of that. So that was a fun little, schematic wrinkle in this game. It was sort of like, does Josh McDaniels know where the bodies are buried in this defense, having gone up against it every week for the last 20 years or whatever? Or are they, it's not the most complicated thing in the world. Like Devontae Adams is being double teamed every play. Let's use that as a decoy and attack something else.
J.C. Jackson making his return for the Patriots?
By default. There's just nobody left in that secondary.
Yeah, pretty much nobody left. He didn't give up many catches, but there was a bunch of drops and overthrows in there when he was giving up a little bit of separation there. But so look, I think the Raiders deserve some credit for their defense. I mean, I know the Patriots have been inept offensively, but the Raiders defense continues to, kind of overachieve. look better than they did on paper. Max Crosby continuing to make a name for himself as a star. He looked great again. I'm not going to pick on Tyree Wilson, but it's still not great. I will give you a stat, though. He has, on the season, Tyree Wilson has 3 pass rush wins and 2 penalties. Just saying. That's all. Might be 2 and 2.
I mean, it is more pass rush wins than you have, which wasn't true for a period of the season.
It was
so
close.
That's something.
For a while. Actually, it's tied now. It's actually tied. Yeah, 2 pass rush wins, 2 penalties for Tyree Wilson so far. I don't want to be. This was like we used to pick on Bud Dupree when the Steelers won. I don't want to do that, right? The Raiders are winning, and they're playing pretty well defensively.
Bad Dupree is still pretty bad, by the way.
That's fine.
If you want an update.
I don't want an update. For New England, they're 1-5, and the Bills and Dolphins are next on the schedule. They're looking 1-7, smack in the face.
Yeah.
1-7 potentially. New England is scouting QBs. They're in the QB market in the draft. I mean, it's just a fascinating place that they're at right now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're going to be looking for the future and the rebuild and all that kind of thing. To me, the fascinating thing is Belichick a part of that? I mean, is this how he goes out? Just an abject season where everything collapses and then somebody else gets to piece it back together again after he goes?
You know, I wonder if like the worse it gets, the more he has an opportunity to make it better. You know, because you can almost like if they win 4 games, it's like, well, you're the best guy to turn this thing around.
Really? Don't you think that like?
Because if they go 7-9, it's just like Bill, or 7-10. You just have us as this mediocre team. We are stuck in mediocrity. We need a change. If it hits rock bottom, which it has, maybe Belichick, it's like, all right, Bill, let's restart this whole thing. You're the best man for the job to rebuild the thing from scratch.
I feel like
I don't know.
I feel like a billionaire that's grown accustomed to AFC Championship every year is just not going to accept, like a 3-win season, no matter whether it was the guy that got him there or not. Like he demands better than that. And if you're not giving it to me, I'm gonna have to go find the next guy.
Yeah. Either way, it's bad there. Patriots fall to 1-5. Raiders 3-3 right now. Let's go. Los Angeles Rams 26. Arizona Cardinals 9, as is the case in a lot of Cardinals games. It was close for a while. Arizona was up 9-6 heading into the second half, and then it was all Rams in the second half. Matthew Stafford, another clean game, but it was all the running game, man. Look at the Rams. Cooper Kupp coming back as a force, 7 catches for 148 yards and a touchdown. The great Puka Nacua, unfortunately, did drop a touchdown on one of the few Stafford dimes in this game. Stafford throwing 2 of the better deep outs you'll ever see, man. And love watching Stafford throw the ball. But yeah, Kyron Williams is the dude. 20 carries for $158. The Rams were just too much. They were a touchdown favorite. It was another game. Arizona's keeping it close, but in the second half, Rams they were just a better team.
Yeah, but they did keep it close again for a while, and then made some mistakes, and the Rams end up easing away. It's interesting, like Kyron Williams, obviously the guy, 20 carries, 158 yards, but he's like the only guy in that backfield, and he still makes mistakes, and you can see like during the game, Stafford constantly screaming at him for screwing things up, right, and kind of trying to coach him up with the tough love stuff during the game because he doesn't have another option, right? It's not like he can go, all right, Williams, you screwed that up, take a seat, we're bringing in Cam Akers. Like, Akers is gone now. It's Williams. So if you need him to not do the mistake thing that he just did, you're going to have to tell him quickly and get it fixed on the fly. This was the game where Arizona failed twice, back-to-back, with a double cheek push shove thing, right? The second time was for offensive offside, which we've now seen called a couple of times in the last couple of weeks against various teams. So that backed them up from instead of 4th and inches, it became 4th and 5, and they took a shot. And he had it, but Dobbs led Marquise Brown out of bounds.
Let him out of bounds on 4th down. Yeah.
And it's like, look, it's just those deep shots are too low a percentage play to take on 4th and whatever, because whatever you gain from the surprise factor, which is what I assume teams think when they're taking those shots, is everyone's expecting something short. Let's hit them over the top. They won't be prepared for it, right?
I mean, realistically, though, their QB's just reading it out. They're just reading out what's available.
But that's my point. You can't. So whatever you think, whatever you're gaining in that surprise element of they're playing everything short, they're not defending the deep shot over the top as well. It's open. You lose on the fact that a deep shot generally is like a 30% shot. So what are you doing? You're turning it into 40% because the coverage isn't good? It's still not a good play. You're not. If you're only going to hit 4 out of 10 of these, it's a bad choice. So stop taking these deep shots on 4th and 5 or 4th and 3. It's not a good play. Every now and again you'll hit one. The Raiders did one, right, a few weeks ago. But the strike rate of these plays.
That was designed. It's when 4th and really short.
But some of these are designed.
You're going to scheme it open for the deep over, yeah.
Some of these are designed, and it's just you can't. The deep play, particularly the deep shot down the sideline, is just too low a percentage play to be taking when you need the completion.
Yeah. Kyren Williams was awesome in this game. They kept getting him into space. That last touchdown was only 16-9.
It also seemed like the same play over and over again. Like every time I looked up, it was like a toss to the right that was going for 15 yards.
They're doing a lot of that. We're going to bring the tight end in motion and give him the head start to kind of be like your lead blocker. We're seeing that a ton around the NFL. The Rams were doing that all the way back in week 1, and there's been a lot of copying. But, yeah, it was a lot of toss plays just getting Kyren Williams into space. And he was 5'9", 194, right? He's navigating it and did a really nice job. But that last touchdown, a 5-yard run, stiff-arming a defensive tackle and getting to the edge, Williams was really good. I mean, figuring out this Rams offense, Stafford only dropped back under 30 times. You know, it was run heavy even when it was close in the fourth quarter. And then when Stafford did throw it, like I said, it was bunch of big-time throws in there. Hit Kupp down the field, hit Puka in the hands in the end zone, and a couple deep outs to Tutu Atwell and Cooper Kupp that he just put right on their hands as well. This was good Stafford in a controlled game plan type of situation. Hit his big-time throws when he needed to, and Kyren Williams creating big plays on the ground.
Very little in terms of consistent pass rush from Arizona. We talked about that going into the game. Barbarian watch. No sacks. No sacks for Dennis.
I know. I got a little stat for you on Rams pass blocking grades.
Oh, yeah?
Because every week, like we sit here every Thursday, and we're like, is this a game where the Rams pass blocking will hold up? And overall, we've been pretty good at predicting. Like when they go up against a not-so-good pass rushing team, say what you want about Seattle, but Seattle in week 1, Arizona this week. So week 1, they had an 84.9, really good pass blocking grade in their win against Seattle. Then it drops to 23, they lose. 26, they lose. I mean, they're at the 80s in one game and then the 20s in other games. The one win, so the 26 against the Niners, right? And in the 20s against the Bengals. 59 against the Colts. They did win that game. Last week, a 47, they lose. And in this game, it's going to be up in the 80s again.
And they win.
Yeah. I'm saying, so like just get up over 80 and you'll be undefeated. It's just there's very little middle ground with this Rams offensive line. In this one, they were good and protected, and
I still maintain that this offense has the tightest connection in terms of success with its offensive line and pass protection of any offense in the NFL. The Sean McVay system has been insanely closely tied to how well its offensive line performs since he got there. And it's what makes it so interesting is the variance in how it's performed since he's got there has been absolutely insane. It's been at one point probably the best offensive line in the NFL, and at other points it's looked like one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL, and everywhere in between. So you have this incredible breadth of data of how tight the correlation is between the two. Like Ben Baldwin still has that meme graph that he posts every now and again of like quarterback performance versus PFF pass blocking grade for his offensive line. It's in the same place every time. It's crazy.
So good win for the Rams. Moving to 3-3, Cardinals fall to 1-5. Look, Josh, it wasn't a great game from Dobbs. I just don't know if he's just going to like run out of time. Like the more you see Dobbs for the entire season, it's not great. It's better than I expected, but over time.
But this was also one of those. So remember, in this weird division of rock paper scissors, particularly the Aaron Donald effect. Like, the 49ers always neutralize Aaron Donald, but he always absolutely destroys the Seahawks and the Cardinals. And Aaron Donald and friends annihilated the Arizona pass protection in this game. Like, Donald had a huge game. Byron Young, who I think is a really perfect combination with Aaron Donald, because Byron Young is freaky athletic and constantly like hustle plays and, high motor type of guy. And Donald is going to create a ton of things for you if you're just willing to like keep going and work at it and fight and chase it down.
You know who would be good here, at least would get stats here, is Bud Dupree. Bud Dupree's hustle. Stop. That's the one thing that he's really good at. High motor hustle plays and being athletic. Bud Dupree would have all sorts of cleanup production here with the Rams.
Anyway, Aaron Donald was really good. Byron Young was really good. The Rams had a ton of pressure. Arizona's pass protection didn't hold up, and consequently, Josh Dobbs is unlikely to look good. There was a play in there as well that was his interception, his red zone interception, the behind Zach Ertz thing. That was like a double blow because, okay, it's a bad throw, it's a bad interception, it's a bad location. I think it was also a bad read. I think he threw the outside guy. Inside was Rondale Moore coming open right between two defenders. If you hit that guy instead, it's probably a touchdown. And, that's a reasonably bad decision, and a bad execution turned what could have been a touchdown and made a difference to the game into an interception, and that's basically game over.
All right, a couple more 4 o'clock games to discuss here. New York Jets 20, Philadelphia Eagles 14. Jets moving to 3-3. Eagles with their first loss, 5-1. All the undefeateds are no longer. So, of course, the 72 Dolphins, they got drunk last night on champagne.
I was thinking last night when you saw the tweets, right? Dolphins popping champagne. That must be like the best sort of club to be in certainly the NFL, maybe sports. Like every year. They've achieved something now where every year, at some point in the year, they're going to get to pop champagne and just have a party, right? Because no one's going to do it again, probably. Patriots had their shot, but it doesn't count because they lost the Super Bowl. So we don't even count that. We don't acknowledge it. Maybe you went 16-0, but you lost at the end of it. We didn't. Champagne. So like every year, these guys having, decades ago, just get to like have an awesome party in like week 6. Because 2 teams lost that weren't supposed to.
You never know when it's going to happen.
Yeah. It's like, this is awesome.
Certainly weren't expecting it this week.
No.
Couple, touchdown plus favorites both lose. But the Eagles still had this game in hand. They missed a field goal late to go up. They could have gone up 5. It was 14-12. They miss a field goal, but the Eagles still have the ball, right? They still have the ball, have an opportunity to run out the clock. And even if they don't run out the clock, they're going to punt and play defense and say, okay, Zach Wilson, come, beat us on a game-winning drive here. And Jalen Hurts throws a horrendous interception, really bad interception late in the fourth quarter, gives the Jets the ball in the tight red zone. Breece Hall scores on the very next play. I believe the Eagles probably tried to let him score. They were calculating the difference between we're going to be down 6 with 2 timeouts and about 2 minutes left, or the Jets, if they run out the clock, we call our 2 timeouts, they kick a field goal, we're going for a game-winning field goal with maybe a minute left, no timeouts. So the Eagles are calculating that on the fly, probably let the Jets score. Either way, after the Hurts interception, the Jets are in control of this game, and they win it 24-14.
Yeah, no, I think they did let him. Lane Johnson gets rolled up on, goes out of the game. Jack Driscoll comes in at right tackle. Worst possible team I think that could have happened against the Jets and their pass rush, and Jack Driscoll was a problem. He's had those games before. Like Lane Johnson's been reasonably injury prone as a right tackle. When Jack Driscoll comes in, it's like, okay, he can do it, but it's a huge downgrade for them. So that certainly didn't help. Driscoll gave up a ton of pressure in the game. The Jets defense, it's nasty. I mean, it's really, really good. And they're doing this without Sauce Gardner at the moment. That's a really good unit. Yeah,
both Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed were out, and the Jets still hung tough. Look, I don't know what to make of the Eagles' offense this year. the word just lethargic keeps coming to mind. And I don't know if it's because they run a rugby formation every few plays that kind of slows things down. I don't know if that's part of it. But the big plays were still they still had A.J. Brown on some big plays and everything. But Hurts makes a couple. They weren't all his fault. He had 3 interceptions. One was absolutely not his fault. He throws a little screen to Dallas Goedert. Ball gets tipped up right to Quinnen Williams. That's an interception. There was a lot of those plays where the official scoring on the play was going to make the passing line completely different. Like if they called that a fumble, it's a fumble. It's not an interception for Jalen Hurts. They called it an interception. They said it was, incomplete, basically. Just like the Cousins thing. They call it a fumble. They call it an interception. So Hurts ends up with 3 interceptions. Another one, he gets hit in the throwing motion, gets popped up. And
that was
then the
a
last
bad
one,
play, though, by him.
That's fine. I'm just saying, there were just some weird plays that end up, the Jets' defense was causing havoc, basically. And then the last one was just a horrendous misread by Hurts.
Yeah. There's just mistakes in this offense. I mean, he had a big Devontae Smith drop who had a lot of space early, gets sacked almost immediately after. That's the drive dead. They're making more mistakes than they have, I think, last season. And what was weird is they hadn't really been getting punished for it yet. I think they had in this game, but up until this game, they hadn't allowed a point off a turnover. This season, they've had a few of them, and they'd always gotten away with it essentially, and not actually cost them anything. But they've been making those kinds of mistakes, and I thought Zach Wilson played quite well in this game.
Yeah, looked a little bit, and he was. Look, when the grades come out, the Jets' offensive line's not going to look very good, and this is what. I don't remember. Did I actually pick the Jets? I don't know if that was a typo. I did pick the Jets officially. I don't remember doing it, but I did pick it. And, yeah, if most quarterbacks are facing that level of pressure and from this Eagles front, it's not going to look great. And the stat line wasn't great for Wilson, but you liked what you saw.
I thought he played a lot better than we've seen from him. There was some decent plays. There was some bad plays in there as well. There are some interesting plays where you see the difference between really high-level quarterbacks and guys that have some ability, but there's something missing. There was a play-action naked bootleg out to the left, and Hassan Reddick was the unblocked defender, right? And there's some quarterbacks that just can't deal with moving to their non-throwing side, right? Because you're turned the wrong way. You're essentially running the opposite direction of how your feet are supposed to be to throw the ball somewhere. So when they get to this spot and they're like, oh, crap, there's an unblocked defender here, they get kind of paralyzed with what they're supposed to do with their feet. And so Wilson did this, read Reddick out there, and then kind of tried to bounce his feet back, set them sort of turn, and then realized that wasn't going to work either. And just almost got caught between 3 or 4 different things in his head and ended up just doing nothing and getting sacked. And it's Mahomes would find a way of doing something. Right now, Mahomes is obviously an outlier, but other quarterbacks would figure out some way of just getting rid of the ball. Okay, your feet are not going to be underneath you where they need to be, but you're going to need to figure something out and just get it out of your hands, because the alternative is the dude's going to sack you. And guys like Wilson just can't find that at the moment.
But the standards are a little bit lower, so when he plays a solid game like this,
this was
that might be all the Jets need, right? You're not going to win a lot by. They scored 12 points. They did get the 2-point conversion. They scored 12 points. Were handed basically another touchdown, but you're not going to win a ton of games only scoring that much.
Yeah, but this is the game. So, it was tensions are getting higher with the Jets because Wilson has been so bad. The defense feels that they basically need to score in order to win a game. This was the game, though, where you're okay, it's not good, but this can win. Their defense is so good, particularly when they get DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner back, that if Wilson can do this, which is literally the lowest bar of game manager, right? Simply do not cost the game by doing anything absurdly dumb.
And feed Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, and get a couple of plays here or there, right? That's enough. And it was. They got just enough for this thing to keep functioning, for them to rack up a couple of plays, for Garrett Wilson to take the ball away from somebody down the sideline. Just enough that they got a few points and the defense didn't need to do it all by themselves, right?
Yeah.
That can win. And really, you look at them now, and the Jets are, what, 500? I'm now rooting for them to be alive come Week 17. I now want to see if Rodgers can achieve this like medical miracle and come back from an Achilles for playoff time.
He was throwing the football.
I saw that.
Now, there's no context there. Do people usually throw the football? Do they still move around a little bit 6 weeks after surgery? What's the context, Doc?
I mean, I saw somebody say...
Because these videos go viral. Look at Aaron Rodgers throwing it. He just had surgery 5-6 weeks ago. He's throwing the football. It's like, is that expected?
Right. I saw somebody saying, like, this is not normal. Now, the person saying it was a beat reporter who I'm almost 100% certain has no idea whatsoever whether it's normal or not.
I don't trust a beat reporter telling me what a drop is. Never mind what the Achilles recovery timeline should be.
Like, he's literally sort of gingerly standing there throwing the ball. I mean, I don't know if you should expect that or not after, 5 weeks, 6 weeks from an Achilles injury.
A lot of strange plays in this game. By the way, if you look at, my mind's all over the place. Zach Wilson's last 3 grades in the green. Greenish.
In the greenish.
I'm saying since, the Chiefs game was his best one. 3 quarters of really good play and a drop snap, but 3 quarters of really good play. Last week was okay. This week was okay. It's not the first 3 weeks, which was who are the Jets calling? Who are they trading for? That's what we were saying after 3 weeks. If you just look at the last 3 weeks, it's reasonable. Slightly bigger than baby steps. Other strange play in this game was the very first touchdown for the Eagles. Jalen Hurts, 4th and 3, to cap off a Service Academy-like 19-play, 91-yard drive that took almost 10 minutes.
Beautiful.
Jalen Hurts runs a QB draw, looks way short of the end zone. The ball's flying around. The ball's fumbled, and it gets reversed as a touchdown. And I don't know. They were the broadcast was debating, well, if it's initially they said, well, it's fumbled, and you can't fumble forward on 4th down and the whole deal. So you're down at the 1, it's Jets ball, but they overturn it and basically say, nope, Hurts across the goal line, gets into the end zone. Weird play. That's all I have.
Good note.
Do you have anything on that?
No, not really.
I thought they were going to call him down.
I thought they were as well, but they didn't, and I don't think it was wrong.
Yeah. Anyway, then there was a whole bunch of field goals. I mean, for the Eagles, it was another one of those games where the heavy favorite is I thought they were going to pull away, right? And they still had it in their hand to at least trust their defense and say, hey, Zach Wilson, drive down the field. You go make a game-winning drive on us right now. And instead Hurts threw that terrible pick. And credit the Jets, man. Good game defensively. Mm-hmm. All right, last 4 o'clock game. Detroit Lions 20, Tampa Bay Bucks 6. Lions moved to 5-1 on the season. Another just really strong game start to finish. It was only 20-6 score-wise, but the Lions moved the ball effectively. And the thing that stood, David Montgomery got hurt early.
Yep.
And the thing that stands out to me with the Lions is when Montgomery got hurt, Craig Reynolds comes in, throws one of the best downfield blocks you'll ever see.
Great block.
But he can't. They can't get anything going on the ground, and it just becomes a Jared Goff game. And Goff comes through, man. It was just he drops back. He has 44 attempts, gets sacked a few more times. I know they only scored 20 points, but they put the ball in Goff's hands. Where they have other games where it's like, no, we're going to run David Montgomery 29 times. We're just going to keep, battering ram and just go. But the Lions put the ball in Goff's hands, and they won the game in a different way. Plus, the defense did a really nice job.
Yeah, it played. It did a good job. Like Amon St. Brown being back in the lineup made a huge difference to them. They kept Sam Laporta had 11 targets in this game and had 4 catches for 36 yards, and it seemed like most of them were coming against Levante David, and it's like, great, we've got Laporta matched up against a linebacker, hit him. It's like, that's not a good matchup. Levante David, despite being 112 years old, was still out there looking like he did when he shut down Travis Kelce in a Super Bowl. It's like that. I know it looks like a good matchup, right? Sam Laporta versus linebacker, but I don't think it is. And there were a few plays where they took that shot, and David was just all over it. But
David was still so good.
Yeah.
He's still so good.
But Amon St. Brown had a great game. That block by Craig Reynolds to spring him on the catch and run was beautiful.
So David's grade's not going to be very good. You're going to look silly when people see his grades.
I mean, he must have gotten beat somewhere else because it seemed like he locked down Laporta a lot. So I don't know where his negatives came from.
Let's stick with the Lions right now. A couple things that stood out. The Craig Reynolds block. Amon St. Brown had 7 first downs.
So he was the primary coverage defender on the Amon St. Brown catch and run touchdown. And that's not going to help the Craig.
So that'll explain it. Reynolds gets downfield. St. Brown. That was what was it? 3rd and what on that play?
3rd and 13.
3rd and 13. And
yeah, that's not pretty.
Little shallow cross to Amon St. Brown, and he does one of those like what I described Tyreek Hill doing. Like we're gonna run lose a little ground or run laterally to try to get the angle, and that never works, right? The defense rallies to the ball, it becomes a 7-yard gain, and you're kicking a field goal. But St. Brown not only gets around the defense, but you also get the great block by Reynolds down the field, and St. Brown's he takes it into the end zone. But 7 first downs and plus 6 first downs plus the touchdown for St. Brown. Work in the middle of the field. You had Jameson Williams with a contested catch 45-yard touchdown after there was a slightly underthrown pass, but he gets his hands on. I don't know if we call it an official drop or whatever. Kind of, disappointing time for Jameson Williams since his return. And then a contested catch touchdown on 3rd and 10, a 45-yarder doing his Will Fuller impersonation there.
Yeah, there's a collection of those guys from Alabama now that it seemed to have been amazing receivers, and then seem to struggle. Tracking the deep ball. Just zero confidence in them, like deep down the field when it's anything other than like dropping into a bucket. When they're 3 yards ahead of the defense. Like he caught it, and I guess he tracked it well in that he was looking right shoulder, had to adjust left shoulder, ends up coming down with it. But you're like, it looked difficult. It feels like that was more difficult than it needed to be. And Jameson Williams is like that.
I don't know why he turned around.
Sometimes you do.
I think if he just ran through it, it was probably there.
No, I think it was laterally off. But I feel like he made more of a meal of that than it needed to be.
I couldn't believe he caught it, right? Because again, I make an annual Mike Wallace comp out there, right? And Mike Wallace would, if there's any sort of contact or whatever, he's probably not catching it type of deal. But I made that comp with like Will Fuller, with Jameson Williams. Here's this guy that's going to get behind the defense, and if there's any sort of physical contact at the catch point, it's probably not going to be a catch. But Will Fuller got way better at that at the NFL level. And all I'm saying is the fact that Jameson Williams caught this ball, I was shocked. I thought he wouldn't catch it with any sort of contact at the catch point.
I mean, Jerry Jeudy is like that as well now from the same college. Like he had a pass that he didn't catch the last game Denver played, where it was a reasonably well thrown ball, slightly behind him, and because it was, like the DB was essentially arriving at the same time to give him the nudge. And it's like, okay, there's contact there, but, there's a lot of receivers in the NFL are coming down with that catch. And as soon as the guy arrived, you knew full well that you weren't. But I don't know, there's this weird lack of confidence I get with a bunch of these guys now from the same offense. When the ball is in the air deep down the field, they just don't seem to have something that other guys do. So it was... credit him for making the catch, right? Like, as you say, he had to make an adjustment on it and then caught it despite the contact, maybe neither of which it looked like he was likely to achieve, and he managed to achieve both of them. But it just felt like that was more hard work than it needed to be for what was a wide-open target again. But if he can be – the fact that he caught it is a big thing for this offense, because that's a threat that he brings. Like, his speed is insane. He is blazing fast. You have to respect that. And if they're going to put on tape, here's a catch he makes, here's something you need to think about as a defense, that will only open up space for Amon St. Brown and Sam Laporta and everybody else to have work in there. So it was a big thing, but he doesn't exactly inspire confidence for a first-round pick and a guy that looked like one of the best receivers in his draft class.
I need Khalif Raymond and Jameson Williams deep shots. Get them both on the field at the same time figure that out, defense. So, yeah, the Lions using all their playmakers. And, again, I think impressed that they won offensively in different ways, putting the ball in Goff's hands a ton, trusting him. Look, the Bucs defense played pretty well. Vita Vea dominant up front from a run D standpoint. He had one of those Vita Vea games, right, where you always say, this dude looks like he's unblockable at 350 pounds. Well, he was in this game. Where was I going to go? Kalijah Kancey makes his return. Some pretty good plays in there as well. He had a couple nice pass rushes, got in on a sack, beat Penei Sewell a couple times in the run game. So decent return from Kalijah Kancey. Hadn't played since week 1.
Yeah, big game by him.
The other thing I wanted to point out, and again, just football is such a fascinating game. Baker Mayfield's going to end the game with a not so good stat line and a couple plays. There was a bunch of plays that were the reason for that. First off, he throws an interception on a play where there's a busted coverage and Mike Evans is running wide open down the field. It was a potential 92-yard touchdown on a busted coverage. And I got to review it, but it looked like Mayfield tried to like laser it in there. And, I always talk about batted passes are not about height or arm angle. It's really about trajectory of the ball. And it got batted up. So he's got Evans, he sees it, throws it gets batted up in the air, gets picked off in the on the Bucs 8-yard line. So a potential 92-yard score on a busted coverage turns into Lions interception, leads to their first points. Mayfield also had several other open downfield passes. He had Trey Palmer behind the defense multiple times. Mike Evans open behind the defense. Baker finishes 2 of 10 on 20-plus yard throws, plus has that batted pass in there. It's just an interesting dynamic because, again, I think, credit the Lions defense. Like, they batted that pass, obviously.
Yeah.
But there were also big plays to be had where the Lions let receivers run open deep, and Mayfield just wasn't hitting those throws.
Yeah, I mean, that was a massive just high-leverage swing of the game. Like, as you said, that's probably a touchdown. I doubt. I mean, it's a complete bust. Nobody's within 10 yards of Evans at the point Baker Mayfield's trying to throw that. He's almost certainly scoring from there. It turns into, instead, a turnover because, was it Lynn McNeil? Who was the guy? No.
Isaiah Buggs. I think got his hands on it.
Yeah. He just got his hand up really well. Like he was waiting for that the whole time. He had his hand up, and then right as the throw went, sort of forced his way further across and got it right.
That was wide open, right? Like, should he have lofted it up? I didn't see the coaches.
Probably. I don't know that he would have been able to get it out of his hands anyway. I mean, it's a really good play by Buggs, but it is wide the hell open. Like that's almost certainly a touchdown if he gets it to him.
I want to give a shout out to friend of the show, Alex Anzalone. He was our guest in the preseason, continuing his career year, at least by PFF grades.
Yeah.
He might not believe
we did say
in the PFF grades.
we did say after he complained about his grade a little bit off camera that there was a high level chance that he was going to have a giant spike in grade. Now we're looking corrupt, just by coincidence.
Maybe I shouldn't. See, I want to give credit where credit's due. And look, when you're just watching the game, Anzalone's all over the field making plays. He's doing some really good stuff.
Career year. He's looking really good this year.
And I didn't see those things in previous years. I'm just going to say that.
I'm just saying that.
But yeah, when he's on the show and then the grade spikes and we get accused that agents are paying us for grades, I mean, it might look bad.
Right.
It might look bad.
And now
but we
Anzalone's
debunked that. I'll point you to the video with that, the Bussin' with the Boys guys. We debunked it in a 25-minute video with them.
Yeah. I'm just saying, it doesn't look good now when Anzalone's out here,
I know.
Pulls us aside to talk about his grade, and now he's out there grading really well.
But I can't ignore it. I cannot ignore the fact that the guy's playing really well right now.
He is.
Anzalone playing well. Anything else on this game? Man, the Lions looking like a force.
Well, now they're back to being, we can talk about them. They'll probably be top of Mike Florio's power rankings, right? Because everyone else lost. So now their one loss doesn't matter anymore.
Oh, yeah, 5-1. Yeah, the Eagles
they can be the Super Bowl
have to
team
drop.
now.
The Niners have to drop. Well, they're all 5-1. Florio doesn't go in and break down tiebreakers or anything like that.
No, he'd probably just go with
But it's win-loss record plus recency bias.
Okay, would you like to know what the current standings are according to NFL.com sorted by league?
Sure.
The Detroit Lions are the number 1 team in the NFL at 5-1. The Kansas City Chiefs are the number 2 team at 5-1. Miami Dolphins number 3 at 5-1. The Philadelphia Eagles number 4 at 5-1, and the San Francisco 49ers number 5 at 5-1. That's the order.
Well, I guarantee that's going to be the top 5. Not necessarily in that order. He would. That would be interesting if he went Lions, though. Get some clicks.
That's what it looks like.
It would get some impressions.
4-win streak.
Yeah. Let's wrap it up. Sunday Night Football. Buffalo Bills 14. New York Giants 9. Some of these scores this week. Fascinating. Looks like the glory days of 1999.
1999. That's your glory day?
Oh, man. Pinnacle. Peak. It's great.
Yeah.
Senior year of high school. It's awesome. 14-9. Bills win. They move to 4-2. Giants fall to 1-5. Some controversy at the end of the game. We'll get to that in a minute. But, of course, weird game. There's always a weird game. Of course, the Giants hanging tough. They got Saquon Barkley back. They were grinding him into the ground at 1.3 per carry. Then he breaks a 34-yarder to make the average look better. He finishes with 24 carries for 93 yards. Tyrod Taylor got the start for the Giants. I mean, I don't want to say the Giants looked better, but he didn't get sacked a million times like Daniel Jones had, so that was good.
He put up 9 points, and it's like, yeah, the Giants, a huge step in the right direction for the Giants.
They still have not scored a first half touchdown, yet they had an opportunity. Tyrod Taylor with about 7 seconds left and no timeouts. They ran duo on the goal line.
Have we heard from Daboll what happened there?
Daboll blamed Tyrod.
Yeah.
Just as it seemed like he was on the broadcast. I think he said Tyrod checked to the run. So.
Yeah. But you can't really do that when you don't have any time left.
I saw our friend Greg Rosenthal. So I've seen this twice this week where they'd say Coach X loves to blame anyone but himself. It was said about a college coach this weekend in his press conference. And then our friend Greg, 2Gs, said Brian Daboll loves to blame everyone else but himself. And I felt like saying, I can relate to that. I think I would be a big blamer. I'd be blaming everyone else but myself. I have a personality flaw of
it's not my fault.
Blaming everyone else. And I can relate to Daboll. I'd say, yeah, quarterback check to it. Of course I wasn't. I'm not going to call a run with no timeouts and 7 seconds left in the half. What am I, stupid? I would never do that. I would absolutely deflect all blame to everyone else. So I stand with Daboll there.
He is the reigning coach of the year. There's a degree to which it probably isn't his fault.
Reigning coach of the year, backup quarterback. Who are we going to trust?
Right. I mean, look.
I mean, he's a 12-year veteran or whatever, but still.
Yeah, you can question how much of last year was all him. But, there's a degree of credit in the bank where you're like, okay, on the one hand, we have the reigning coach of the year who, just got this job based off the amazing job he did as a coordinator and all that kind of thing. The architect of the Josh Allen growth in the NFL development. And then this year, an offensive line that's fallen to rack and ruin, a quarterback that nobody believed in the first place is bad all of a sudden, and his backup is now starting this game. I mean, how much blame does Brian Daboll deserve in all this? Probably not that much.
Yeah, it was a rough end to the half. So the Giants come away with no points at the end of the half. They go in leading 6-0 against the Bills. What's the jet lag like coming from across the pond here? So remember I mentioned, you used to always get an automatic off week coming back from London. It's no longer a thing. And I know it was a night game, so that's like 2 a.m. London time.
Yeah, coming this way, it's not usually bad. It just means you're going to wake up stupidly early in the morning for a couple of days. Going the other way, it sucks.
Yeah, it's just interesting that, I don't know.
Also, by the way,
you can't just chalk it up to, jet lag or anything like that. But Buffalo clearly didn't look like themselves, and the Giants did play really well defensively.
Also, I don't know if a lot of that is dependent on the time you're flying, right? Which is usually just you're at the mercy of the airlines. But if you have a private charter plane, that changes. Baltimore was on the way back last night, right? If I'm flying here from Ireland, my flight leaves at 10 a.m. Irish time and gets in here mid-afternoon. All it means is it's a long day, right? But if you can dictate when the plane flies, that changes everything. Because now you can fly, you're not at the mercy of getting in at some stupid hour in the morning. You can actually fly when you want to fly. So, who knows?
So as I mentioned, Giants defense was playing really well. Bobby Okereke flying around the field, making plays. I've enjoyed good linebacker play.
He had a ton of big plays in this game.
Yeah,
he looked fantastic.
He really did.
For a guy that is not always graded well for us at all.
No, maybe he's another one of those linebackers where the height, length, speed guy comes good here. He's having a pretty good year for the Giants. The Giants are hanging in, and then Josh Allen just makes a Josh Allen play at the end, right? So they finally find the end zone. Buffalo goes up 7-6. Giants come back. It's 9-7. They did kick a field goal on 4th and 1 on the Buffalo 11. If you're the Giants and you've held, just think about the thought process here. You've held the Bills to 7 points, and the general sentiment is defense is playing well. You got to trust them to keep it going. The other sentiment is dodged a bullet, man. We're 3 quarters in. We've held them to 7. That's never going to last. Coaches don't think like that enough, right? And I'm not saying that was the exact thought process, but they kick a 29-yard field goal on 4th and 1. The other factor is that, again, Barkley's at like $1.50 per carry for the majority of the game. It's not like the 1 yard's easy against this Buffalo defense, but they kick a field goal to go up 9-7, and it's Josh Allen just making an incredible Josh Allen-like play. 15-yard touchdown to Quentin Morris on a scramble where the play's not there. He just creates a touchdown opportunity that doesn't exist with a laser beam touchdown pass to Morris, and that ended up being the difference in the game.
That's one of the tighter. What did the quote unquote analytics say about that kick? Was it go or was it kick?
I think anything 4th and 1. Anywhere from your own 35 to the goal line is a go. I'm not sure of the percentage differences.
But it's also...
Off the top of my head, I would imagine it's like a 3 to 4% swing.
So you have... That's like the classic example of this dichotomy where the numbers would usually say go to it. But had been up until that point, and particularly it would say it even more if you're a team that's like a heavy underdog, right? Like the Giants were. So... on the one hand, the numbers will say go for it, and you're an underdog, so you need to take those chances more than ever. On the other hand, it is a game where their offense has got nothing done. Your defense is playing really well, and it's late in the game. So at that point, you've got like quite a large part of sort of situational information saying, actually, this is one where you do want to trust the defense. The other element in it is the score. So if you do get the touchdown, like you're not putting this completely out of reach because of where they are.
There's 10:38 left in the 4th.
Yeah, and in fact, you're almost setting up that situation where you're forcing them to go for the touchdown and play more aggressively, like that cardinal sin of don't kick the field goal to go up by 6 because, that makes them play aggressively. Like you're actually achieving that by scoring the touchdown. I don't know. I'd have been interested in that one. I can actually see an argument. I can see why you don't go for that one.
So you're saying if the Giants play it out, convert the 4th, if they do score a touchdown, they're going to go up 12-7. They have to go for 2 to make it 14.
Right. So now you're making
Buffalo play, 4-down game.
Yeah. So even if you get that touchdown, you
might not get the 2-point conversion.
Well, so you have that option, right? Do you even attempt the 2? Probably. So then you even if you get that, now you force them to play aggressively because they have to get the touchdown, as opposed to the field goal where I don't know. I think that's quite an interesting one.
I think that's fair. I think the other thing at play, Tyler Bass missed a field goal. It is tougher to kick outside in Buffalo. He missed a 50-something yarder earlier in the game. Maybe that's all factored in as well. But so Josh Allen makes that ridiculous pass with 3:55 left in the 4th quarter. Giants have a chance to drive down, and they do it. They get the drive prolonged with they have a penalty in the end zone that gives us one last play at the 1-yard line. Darren Waller was interfered with on the previous play, so it's one last play, win or go home for the Giants, and we have Teron Johnson makes a good play, also holds Darren Waller. I thought it was interesting hearing Terry after the game breaking it down, and I thought the boss did a really good job of breaking it down the same way I think a lot of fans saw it, which was not only it was a hold, it was pass interference, it was a lot of things. I thought it was a good play call, actually, too. Play action and put it up high to Darren Waller. I don't know if the throw was even that bad. Waller could not get his second hand up to try to catch it, though. So it's incomplete. Bills win.
And even just the play design where they shrink it down, they create that switch, which, as I think Chris was saying, like a lot of times that creates just a bust because you force them to quickly make an adjustment. And the Bills, to their credit, did make the adjustment. They switched it off well. They were able to. The right guy was in the right place at the right time, so that part didn't work. But in terms of like when you're dialing up a play, that's an important thing because it didn't work out, but you've just added a layer that 10% of the time is going to create an easy, wide open touchdown because they just bust it immediately, right? So you threw that into the play design. That's good, even if from a process standpoint, even if results-wise it didn't work because they actually defended it well. Like that's a smart thing to do. And then, it was probably a penalty of some description.
Because what Terry was trying to say was when there's a difference between a defensive hold and a pass interference. So if you hold, a hold is a hold. Anytime you grab a jersey before the pass is thrown, that's a hold. Automatic flag. But once the ball's in the air, you're kind of allowed to hold as long as it doesn't impede the receiver. So theoretically, if the hold started later, if there's like a little jersey grab, but you're like, it didn't impede the receiver enough, it becomes this massive judgment call. And that's why people get mad, is because all these are judgment calls. And you do A/B analysis on all this, and you're like, this call, and this call went to the offense, and this one, and this one, and this one went to the defense. Where's the consistency? And it's just, I don't know. There's human error in these things. There always will be. But as Chris pointed out after the broadcast, he said the hold starts right at the line of scrimmage, and it continues all the way through the play. So it was before the pass, it was after the pass, and it did impede Waller from going up to get the pass. The other thing that's really smart for Teron Johnson there is why wouldn't you hold? I would absolutely be all over the receivers. Downside. There is zero downside. Worst the case, you just get a penalty and you play it again. So I thought it was smart by Teron Johnson, but probably a bad no call. But there's the other human element there, right? It was a penalty that gave them that one last play from the one. The refs don't want to be the story. They don't want to throw another flag on back-to-back plays at the end of the game in Buffalo.
Yeah. It's like soccer. When you give away one penalty, like the chances of them giving you a second one are so small, even when they're like it's a clear penalty, because they don't want to, like no ref wants to give away multiple penalties in the same game, even when it's clear. Like the officials just gave you a penalty. The chances of them throwing the next flag are so small.
Yeah, that's so that's just smart defense. At that point, Teron Johnson's a good player.
The other thing, though, so Tyrod Taylor played quite well in this game. Like this, I think was probably the best. This might have been the best Tyrod Taylor performance since he played in Buffalo, like for the Bills. Almost every single his career since then has actually been incredibly rough, given how well he played for the Bills before Josh Allen arrived. He makes that screw up before the half, right? Bad choice to go to the run game, didn't get it, essentially left points on the board before the half. And then just at the end of this drive, before the penalty stuff, they are 1st and 10. So he makes a pass, 4th and 5, keeps it going. We're alive. We get up there. We spike the ball. There's 10 seconds left, right? Then, so you've essentially got 2 shots into the end zone from like 15 yards away. Instead, he scrambles and ends up getting 6 yards, chewing up almost all the time on the clock.
That felt like a bad decision.
So it was a bad decision because, you're chewing up the time off clock and it's not a shot to the end zone. All you're doing is moving yourself slightly closer to it, right? It's also, if you look at the end zone view of it, the terrible decision to scramble. Like he needed a miracle. Ed Oliver should have grabbed him at the line of scrimmage.
He needed a miracle just to get out of bounds.
Just to get out of the pocket.
Yeah.
So it was a terrible decision. Like he could and should have been sacked right then. Ed Oliver has him and somehow just like one of those, like I've grabbed hold of him and just fall off and don't get hold of the tackle. Like just running was not a good decision, but it needed a miracle to not be sacked then and there. And it's like, I was sort of thinking of that. This is one of those, like the turnover where they play at the start of the drive that nobody remembers because the guy dropped it and you end up executing the game-winning drive. Like if Taylor ends up getting this done and pulling a win And like 2 plays earlier is this play here where he should have been sacked dead to rights on a terrible decision to even think about doing that. It's just amazing that that would have happened.
Could you imagine if that's how the game ended after how the first half ended?
Right.
You'd be sitting there saying, okay, they ran the ball and didn't get any points at the end of the first half, and Tyrod decided to scramble. Like, he made both of those decisions. Basically decided to create a run play twice that almost led to no points. He did get out of bounds, though, and it led to that. Yeah, again, Chris, look, I'm not talking up the boss just because he's the boss. He doesn't listen this late into the show, I don't think. But Chris said, he's like, you got 2 shots in the end zone. You probably should take both of those.
Yeah, that being said, like, there's something
about getting it closer.
It's easier, right, from the wherever they got that.
I get it. I think when you're at the 15 or whatever, though, your best bet is you got to pump fake. You got to, like, move a defender, right? They're all sitting there. They're, crowd in the end zone. You got to move a defender and hit a tight window throw, right, for the most part. Didn't really matter because they got to the 1 and we had the holding, the no call. So Buffalo survives, man. 14-9. They move to 4-2. Giants fall to 1-5, and we'll see if Daniel Jones is back anytime soon. I want to say, like, the Giants' pass protection still wasn't very good. Is there actually something to Saquon Barkley just being on the field and handing him a whole bunch of carries for 1 yard? Is there something that I'm not saying it made the offense better, but it does actually give the pass protection a little bit more of a chance?
I mean, it's a play where you're not losing 7 because they're giving up a sack.
I'm just trying to be open-minded about, like, there's a lot of Saquon people out there. Wow, the offense is completely different when you're, handing it to Saquon over and over again, or he's part of the offense. And there's some data that kind of supports that. And there's probably this element of, in recent weeks where there's 0 running game, Daniel Jones is an absolute sitting duck over and over and over. Like, there's something to it. But it's also, I mean, they had Barkley there and they scored 9 points. And a lot of those plays are just failed plays. But
it's difficult to parse because it's not like Daniel Jones is an immobile, unathletic quarterback. Like, he actually is quite dangerous when he's running the ball.
And they do roll him out. And everything. They did that a lot with Tyrod. They did a lot of moving pockets and things to try to mitigate pass rush in this one.
But that being said, I think Tyrod Taylor is a better scrambling quarterback when the play is breaking down. Like, he has a better awareness of where the danger is. He has a better ability to sort of to jink in the backfield and get out of a dangerous situation, whereas Daniel Jones, like, in the open field running the ball, might be a more effective runner than Tyrod Taylor. Taylor, I think, is a better suited quarterback to, like, the current chaos that unfolds behind their offensive line on a regular basis when they drop back to pass. So it's a complicated sort of A-B analysis between the two guys. I don't know how much of an impact Saquon is making other than simply the plays you're giving him the ball are plays they're not giving up pressure and sacks, which itself is valuable. But
I'm saying gaining 1.5 is better than gaining -7.
Yes.
So that's the benefit there. All right. Look at us. Oh, it's past 9:30. I thought we were on time.
No. Justin Pugh straight off the couch.
Oh, yeah, I wanted to mention Justin Pugh. That was a great intro. Not only straight off the couch, he starts at left guard and then has to move to left tackle.
Poor dude. I generally hate those intros. Like, I think, like, it was funny when, like, one guy came up with something funny when everyone else just read out their college, and, like, 20 years ago somebody came up with a funny thing to say. It's like, all right, that was good. Now it's like that's a thing where people, and nobody's funny, right? That was funny.
That was hilarious.
Justin Pugh, that was the funniest one of those that's happened in a long time.
Legitimately right off his couch and playing Sunday Night Football.
Yeah.
Hope for everyone here. You could be starting at left tackle for the Giants next week on Sunday Night Football.
Easy.
All right, that's it for us. We still have Monday Night Football. I'm loving this game. Chargers and Cowboys tonight. And you'll be reviewing that tomorrow with Trevor. I assume. You guys got to talk QB3 and QB, like Caleb Williams coming off his first game.
We already did that.
Back. You got to do a mid-season revisit.
No.
The
Doesn't
QB3
matter.
Conversation is going to be...
Now Caleb Williams is in it?
No, I'm saying, like... So, yeah, Williams versus May still.
Yeah.
Razor thin, according to Dane Brugler of The Athletic.
Yeah.
Williams coming off his worst game. QB3, completely wide open. Michael Penix with this Heisman moment, throwing absolute dimes down the field for Washington this weekend. There's a lot of good stuff, a lot of stuff to talk about.
And we noticed the way the Bills, by the way, have essentially determined that all Kyrie Elam can do is press man.
I haven't noticed that, but that's also what the scouting report was, I believe.
Yeah. So it's like it's kind of like J.C. Jackson, right? When the Chargers were like, "No, actually, you don't work in our defense. We're just going to put you back playing press man cover and figure everything else out around you." The Bills seem to be doing that with Kyrie Elam. It's like, all right, if we're stuck with this guy, you press man. Everyone else, don't listen to what they're doing. They run a different scheme to you.
Yeah, we'll see if that affects some of their versatility going forward. Because the Bills have a defense that can adjust pretty well historically.
Mm-hmm.
All right, man, that's it for us. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Sam will be back again tomorrow with more PFF NFL podcast.